Chapter 173. Miss Yun, your parents and I have known each other for a long time. However, we have different masters and we can only meet on the battlefield. So, on account of my friendship with your parents, I advise you to leave the Flowing Gold country. I can forgive you for entering Flowing Gold Nation, but if you don't leave, don't blame me for being impolite. Ibufon's tone was unusually firm and his handsome face was solemn. He was the general of Flowing Gold Nation and protecting the country was his responsibility. Otherwise, he would not have resolutely met the woman he loved on the battlefield more than 10 years ago. Unfortunately, because he was against using schemes against Yun Yang and his wife, he was summoned back by His Majesty before the war was over. He was completely unaware of what happened next. When he finally found out, he heard that Yun Yang and his wife had both died on the battlefield and their souls had returned to their homeland. This grievous news was a huge blow to him, and he used it as an excuse to avoid waking up. Even now, his heart still ached. Leave Flowing Gold Nation? Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly. Do you think that since I've come here, I'll leave so easily? Ibufon's handsome face darkened. Miss Yun, as long as I'm guarding Flowing Gold Nation, I won't let you do anything to harm Flowing Gold Nation. Even if you're Bai Ling's daughter, I won't let you do as you please. Yun Luofeng glanced at him maliciously. I'm here to avenge my parents. No one can stop me. Yun Luofeng. Ibufon was slightly annoyed. When two countries fight, there are bound to be casualties. My Flowing Gold Nation has also lost many people on the battlefield. Do you want to avenge them all? When will there be an end to revenge? Furthermore, there are casualties in battle. These things are unavoidable. That's right. When two countries fight, there are bound to be casualties. Unfortunately, I don't care about the lives of the people in this world. I only care about my family. I don't care how they died. I only know that those who hurt my family are my enemies. Yun Luofeng laughed coldly. Her arrogant eyes were filled with dominance. When will there be an end to revenge? What a joke. She never knew how to repay evil with kindness. She only knew that blood must be paid with blood. Ibufon's brows furrowed tightly as anger appeared on his face. As if sensing their general's anger, the surrounding soldiers all drew their weapons, causing the atmosphere to suddenly become tense. Yun Luofeng, do you really insist on doing this? Ibufon raised a hand to stop the soldiers and asked coldly. Yun Luofeng didn't answer him, but instead asked a question with a faint smile. General E, do you like my mother? The girl's voice was devilishly and languid, as if she was asking something unimportant. But her words caused Ibufon's heart to clench fiercely. At this moment, the image of that peerlessly beautiful face that had a faint smile on her face had appeared once more in his mind. Do you know why my mother didn't choose you? Yun Luofeng smiled devilishly, because the person she loved was a man with unyielding character. Yun be like Yun. Luo, loyal man like other people. If my father was still alive, he would wash the imperial city in blood if anyone dared to touch my mother. He would rather give up his position as a junior general than allow anyone to touch her. Ibufon was deeply affected by the girl's words. He staggered and fell on the chair in a sorry state. At that very moment, this mighty general of Flowing Gold Nation had accidentally exposed all his thoughts for all to see. Chapter 174. Yi Ling, let's go. Yun Luofeng took one last look at the disheveled Ibufon before he turned and slowly walked towards the boundless night. Yi Ling, who had wanted to leave with Yun Luofeng, did not seem to be able to bear to see Ibufon in such a disheveled state. His footsteps paused slightly as he turned his back to the middle-aged man behind him and said, Uncle, seeing that you're my mother's elder brother, I'll tell you this as well. The Flowing Gold Nation's royal family has reached its end. Don't help the Emperor kill anymore. After he had finished speaking, he did not spare another glance at the man behind him as he quickly chased after Yun Luofeng. Buzz. Ibufon laid on a chair as a bitter smile hung on the corners of his lips. Bai Ling, you didn't choose me back then because I was too fair and strict. Yun Yang, on the other hand, is a hot-blooded man? Could it be that my loyalty to His Majesty was also a mistake? His handsome face was filled with pain, as if he had sunk into a deep recollection. If I could relive my life, I would really like to be an ordinary person without any burdens. If that were the case, it wouldn't be impossible for me to fly into a rage for a beauty. Unfortunately, I was never meant to be hot-blooded. Ibufan ordered someone to bring him some white wine and downed it in one gulp. All these years, every time he thought of that peerless beauty, he would need to rely on the numbing effects of alcohol to fall asleep. Young mistress, you're back? In the second prince's residence, the little girl, Qinyan, saw Yun Luofeng return at first glance. Her crescent-shaped eyes lit up as she hurriedly went forward to greet her. She said with a smile, "Young mistress, you've been out for the whole night. You must be tired. I've already asked the kitchen staff to prepare a bowl of soup for you. Drink it before you go to sleep." "All right." Yun Luofeng walked into the room and a fragrant aroma filled the air. She walked towards the bowl of soup and sat in front of the table. She scooped up a spoonful of the fragrant soup and slowly brought it to her mouth. "Why is the meal this time different from the one at noon?" Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow. "This chef isn't bad. His cooking skills are even better than those in the general's mansion. Tomorrow, I'll mention this to Yi Ling and have her send this chef to me. The old man will definitely like it." Yun Luofeng didn't have any other hobbies, but he loved to eat. As such, all the chefs in the general's residence were hired by him at a high price. Yun Luofeng, who was used to eating the food in the general's residence, was not used to the flowing gold nation. He didn't expect that the third prince's residence would have such a skilled chef. Qin Yen looked at Yun Luofeng guiltily. "Miss, this isn't very good. After all, this chef is from Yi Ling's residence. Why not?" Yun Luofeng finished his bowl of soup, then took the handkerchief that Qin Yen handed over and wiped the corner of his mouth. He stretched his body and stood up from his seat. "I will make this request to Yi Ling tomorrow. I'm tired now. Qin Yen, you can leave first." "Yes, miss, this servant will take her leave." Qin Yen hurriedly picked up the empty bowl and guiltily walked out. She was thinking about how to cover up this lie. In the courtyard, under the darkness of the night, a man dressed in a long black robe was hidden in the darkness. It was as if he had become one with the night. Qin Yen saw the grim man in the courtyard with one glance. After thinking for a moment, she walked over to him. "I've already followed your instructions and sent the soup to Mississippi. I didn't let her know that you were the one who made it for her." The man's tone was as grim as ever. It was as if besides Yun Luofeng, he wasn't willing to say another word to anyone else. "Give this to her." Chapter 175. Qin Yen was stunned. Her gaze fell upon the plate of grapes in the man's hand, and she blinked in astonishment. "Even though Miss doesn't like the food in the third prince's residence, these grapes don't seem to be any different. Why did you?" "Not the same." "Not the same? How so?" Qin Yen simply could not understand this man. Why does he have to be so mysterious every time? Besides, he has always been following Miss to protect her. Why doesn't he let Miss know? The man's face was expressionless and his voice was low. "I will continue to deliver tomorrow's food." Of course, those grapes were different. Yun Luofeng was very picky about food. For example, when she eats grapes, she must first remove the seeds. Hence, he had used his spiritual energy to remove the seeds from the grapes on the plate. However, he was not interested in explaining this to Qin Yen. "Also, leave these grapes on her table. Don't disturb her rest." The man thought for a moment before he gave another order. His dark eyes looked at the flickering candlelight at the door. He then turned around resolutely and immediately disappeared into the night. Now, he should go and prepare her breakfast tomorrow. "Qin Yen, where did these grapes come from?" "Early morning." The morning light spilled into the room. The young girl was sitting at the table, her slender fingers gently tapping the surface of the table as she asked casually. Ah. Qin Yen was stunned and replied guiltily, yes. I prepared them for you, Mississippi, is that so? Then how did you remove the seeds from the grapes? Yun Luofeng looked at the little girl's delicate and pretty face with a smile that did not reach her eyes as she continued to ask. What? The little girl cried out in shock. How could this be? Qin Yen was about to defend herself when she suddenly realized that she had let the cat out of the bag. She quickly shut her mouth and guiltily glanced at Yun Luofeng. Yun Luofeng raised her eyebrows. Her heart quickly caught on to something, and a smile appeared on her beautiful face. Qin Yen, since when have you helped others lie to me? Is this how you feel about me, Qin Yen thought that Yun Luofeng was angry and felt somewhat anxious. She hurriedly explained, Young lady, this servant did not intentionally deceive young lady. If someone else wanted to bribe this servant to harm young lady, this servant would definitely not betray young lady. This servant is just. She only felt that Yun Xiao and young Miss's relationship was very good, so it was impossible for him to harm young Miss, so she helped him. Moreover, Yun Xiao had seen that young Miss had no appetite for the past few days, and he didn't want young Miss to know that he was tailing her. Hence, he had sought her out. If it was someone else, she wouldn't have bothered. Yun Luofeng laughed out loud. She raised her hand to pinch Qin Yan's cheek and said with a smile, All right, I won't tease you anymore. Qin Yan, I naturally understand your sincerity towards me. I will pretend to be unaware of this matter. You can continue to contact him. Yun Xiao had probably never thought that a plate of grapes would completely expose his whereabouts. Mississippi, Qin Yen bit her lips and stamped her feet in shame and indignation. The young miss was really getting naughtier and naughtier. She actually teased her, causing her to think that the young miss was really angry. The Empress has arrived. His Royal Highness the Second Prince has arrived. Just as Yun Luofeng stepped out of her room, a sharp voice suddenly fell into her ears. It caused her expression to sink and a murderous intent appeared in her black eyes. Chapter 176. This third prince is really outrageous. I personally came to see him, but he didn't even come out to receive me. I really don't know how that dead Empress erased her son. In the back garden, Empress Rong frowned slightly and her elegant face flashed with displeasure as she scoffed. But the third prince's residence was really rich. Look at the rocks, they were actually made from stones from the depths of the North Sea. The herbs in the flower beds were actually the extremely precious scarlet flame grass. Even the bamboo in the bamboo forest could not be bought without tens of millions of gold and silver. It seemed that the Yi family was not as simple as they appeared to be. They must have given the third prince an incalculable amount of gold and silver over the years. Otherwise, he would not have the ability to build such a luxurious residence. Greed flashed across Empress Rong's eyes as she stared fixedly at the treasures that could rival a nation's wealth. What she did not know was that the moment her greed was exposed, Yi Ling had already noticed it. A cold laugh sounded as if it came from the horizon, causing Empress Rong to hurriedly retract the greed in her eyes. She turned to look at the youth who had just stepped out of the study, her beautiful eyes filled with murderous intent. This damned brat, he's so lucky. I've already sent so many assassins but none of them managed to kill him. Unfortunately, no matter how lucky he was, he would still end up like his short-lived mother. Sooner or later, he would die in the Yellow Springs. Yi Ling, I've come to see you this time because I have a few matters to discuss with you. Empress Rong stared coldly at Yi Ling, the greed in her eyes exploding once again. I and His Majesty have owed you far too much over the years. To make up for our guilt, I've decided to have you exchange residences with Luo. Luo Er's residence is in the bustling city, much better than this remote place of yours. She said it was a discussion, but it was actually a forceful order. How could Yi Ling not sense Empress Rong's true intentions? The cold smile on his lips deepened as he replied indifferently, Apologies, I prefer a quiet place. I appreciate your Majesty's good intentions. Yi Ling. Empress Rong's expression darkened. You really don't know what's good for you. I'm doing this to make up for what I owe you. Luo Er's residence is much better than this shabby place of yours. The meaning behind her words was that she did all this for the sake of Yi Ling, but it just so happened that this stinking brat Yi Ling didn't appreciate it. Hee. Yi Ling chuckled again and said mockingly, if you want me to exchange my mansion with Yi Luo, it's not impossible. Everything in my mansion, even a blade of grass or a tree, I'll take it all. Empress Rong's expression changed completely. Since this is an exchange of manors, then everything in the two manors will be included. I'm afraid it's very unreasonable for you to take these things away. Yi Ling smiled. His smile contained a bone-chilling coldness. His slightly raised eyes held a touch of arrogance. Empress Rong, what difference is there between your actions and a bandit's? Aren't you just eyeing the treasures in my mansion and planning to rob them openly? Why do you have to make it sound so nice? How dare you? Empress Rong shouted angrily. Her cold and elegant face flashed with viciousness. You are a prince, and also a subject of the flowing gold kingdom. Do you think that I, the Empress, do not have this little bit of authority? I'm warning you, everything in the flowing gold kingdom belongs to the imperial court. The same goes for the treasures in your mansion. Since these belong to the imperial family, why can't I make the decision? Chapter 177. Her meaning was very clear. All the treasures under the heavens belong to the empire. As the mother of the empire, she has the right to distribute these treasures. Hence, the treasures should belong to whoever she says they belong to. Yi Ling stared disdainfully at Empress Rong, who was acting like a bandit. No one else can lay a finger on my things. Not even the members of the imperial family. Impudence! Yi Luo's handsome face filled with rage when he heard Yi Ling's mocking words. He glared fiercely at the handsome, fair youth before him. Yi Ling, my imperial mother is the empress of the empire, a motherly model of the nation. Who gave you permission to speak to her in this manner? Since my imperial mother has said that this residence belongs to me, you'd better get out of my territory immediately. My place doesn't welcome a bastard like you. The word bastard made Yi Ling's breath sink. He narrowed his eyes and approached Yi Luo dangerously. What did you just say? I said that you're a bastard, slap. Yi Ling's hand was as fast as the wind. Before anyone could react, a slap flew towards Yi Luo's face. A clear and melodious sound rang through the entire residence and shocked Empress Rong. She never thought that Yi Ling would have the audacity to hit someone in front of her. You dare to hit me? Yi Luo covered his swollen face as his eyes spat fire. I'm going to tell Imperial Father to send you to the border. You little bastard, you little B*****. I hit you for Imperial Father's sake. Do you think that Imperial Father will send me away for this? Yi Ling retracted his hand and wiped his face with a handkerchief as he sneered. You're talking nonsense. Yi Luo could not help but swear and his face turned a bright red. This little B** actually said that he had hit me for Imperial Father's sake? Such behavior was utterly shameless. Don't forget, we share the same father. You've called me a little bastard, a little B****. Isn't that the same as saying that I'm the son of a B****? You're humiliating Imperial Father in front of me. Do you think that you deserve to be hit? Yi Ling casually threw the handkerchief in his hand onto the ground and stared condescendingly at Yi Luo. Yi Luo became even more enraged. Just as he was about to defend himself, the stunned Empress Rong came back to her senses and slapped Yi Luo across the face. Luo, why did you have to call him a little bastard? If His Majesty hears about this, no one will be able to protect you. Empress Rong said anxiously. Yi Luo felt very wronged, but he knew that he had spoken without thinking. Hence, he shut his mouth and did not dare to say another word. Suddenly, a soft chuckle was heard. Even though the chuckle was extremely soft, it was still clearly heard by everyone. Everyone followed the voice, and in an instant, a snow-white dress appeared in their line of sight. She was slowly walking over, and behind her was a green-clothed maidservant. She was beautiful and charming. "It's you." Yi Luo saw Yun Luofeng at first glance, and a look of amazement flashed across his eyes. However, when he thought of what this young girl had done to him, his gaze suddenly darkened. She would never forget how this damned slut had humiliated her in front of everyone. "Imperial Mother, she's the woman I've been talking about." Yi Luo took a deep breath and clenched his fists tightly as he spoke, enunciating each word clearly. Empress Rong was shocked. She turned to look at Yun Luofeng, and a hint of jealousy flashed across her beautiful eyes. Chapter 178. No wonder my son could not forget this woman. She was so beautiful. If His Imperial Majesty were to see her, I'm afraid that there would be no place for me in the Imperial Palace. "Miss, how should I address you?" She remembered the purpose of her visit and no longer cared about fighting Yi Ling for the residence. Her beautiful eyes stared deeply at Yun Luofeng as a sense of contemplation appeared in her eyes. "Yun Luofeng." Yun Luofeng glanced at her from the corner of his eye and spoke unhurriedly. "Yun Luofeng," Empress Rong murmured softly as a light flashed in her eyes. She went straight to the point. "My main purpose in coming here this time is to see you. Now I only have one question for you. Do you wish to rise above all others?" Yun Luofeng raised an eyebrow, crossed her arms and asked with a smile that did not reach her eyes, "What do you mean?" "I have an opportunity here that can help you rise above others." Empress Rong laughed icily. "It all depends on whether you can grasp it. If you do, I can let bygones be bygones for hurting Luo." Yun Luofeng laughed softly and raised her eyebrows in a demonic manner. "I wonder what kind of opportunity this is? Tell me about it." Empress Rong saw the young girl's expression and thought that there was a chance. Her heart leaped with joy and a trace of disdain flashed across her eyes. She had thought that such a beautiful woman would have great strength of character. Now it seems that she was nothing more than that. She was no different from the women in the brothels. "As long as you're willing to listen to me, I can give you to Steward Wu Zhong of Luofeng Pavilion. As long as you can form a relationship with him, your future will be peaceful." Empress Rong raised her chin arrogantly. Her cold and elegant features were filled with disdain as she stared straight at Yun Luofeng. It was as if she was certain that she would seize this opportunity. The little servant girl, Qin Yen, who was standing behind Yun Luofeng, was completely dumbfounded by his words. "Did I hear wrongly? Is there something wrong with the Empress' brain? She's actually giving the master of Luofeng Pavilion to a mere steward? She even said that this is an opportunity for her miss to rise above others." "You mean the steward of Luofeng Pavilion?" Yun Luofeng chuckled. "I thought it would be someone important. So it's just a servant. Wasn't that right? In the eyes of the true pavilion master behind the scenes, wasn't Steward Wu Zhong just a servant?" Unfortunately, Empress Rong would never have guessed that this peerless beauty was the boss of the Windfall Pavilion. If she knew all of this, she would definitely find a hole to hide in and never come out again. "Servant?" Empress Rong paused for a moment, then laughed abruptly. "Miss Yun, could it be that you don't know the great name of Windfall Pavilion? In just half a year, the Windfall Pavilion's name has shaken the entire Flowing Gold Nation, and Manager Wu Zhong is a high spiritualist. Even the imperial family's experts have to be courteous when they see him, so he's not a servant. You'd better be polite when you see him." In Empress Rong's eyes, Yun Luofeng must have been ignorant and inexperienced. He didn't know the great name of the Zephyr Pavilion, which was why he dared to boast so shamelessly. Now that she had revealed Wu Zhong's strength, she was sure that this young girl would be overjoyed and throw herself into her arms. At that time, she could use Yun Luofeng as a bridge to establish a relationship with Steward Wu Zhong. Chapter 179. What a pity! Under Empress Rong's determined gaze, Yun Luofeng shook his head. A servant will always be a servant. No matter how powerful he is, he can't escape being a servant. Empress Rong's complacent face froze. After a long while, she finally calmed the anger in her heart and sneered, "Little girl, I'm only giving you this opportunity out of kindness, but you don't know how to grasp it. That's right, I admit that you're quite pretty, but do you think that you can rely on your looks to hook up with an important person? Which one of the women married by an important person isn't very powerful? That's why it's your good fortune that Steward Wu Zhong has taken a liking to you. Don't even think about seducing someone like the master of the Windfall Pavilion." After she finished speaking in one breath, her cold and elegant face lifted into a cold smile. "The master of the Windfall Pavilion is not someone you're worthy of." Even though no one knew the gender of this mysterious master of the Windfall Pavilion, everyone subconsciously thought that a person who could establish such an organization must be a domineering man. Some of the unmarried women even saw the master of the Windfall Pavilion as their dream lover. However, they didn't know that the master of the Windfall Pavilion was a woman. "My lady, is this person stupid?" Qin Yen couldn't help but blurt out. "If my lady is the master of the Windfall Pavilion, how could my lady seduce me?" "Impudent!" Empress Rong's face darkened and she said coldly, "A little servant girl dares to interrupt. Guards, drag her away and beat her to death." "Yes, your majesty." Hearing this, the guards behind Empress Rong joined their fists and stared sharply at Qin Yen. Just as the guards were about to walk towards Qin Yen, a cold voice rang out, "I'd like to see who dares to touch Qin Yen." The handsome youth stepped forward and shielded Qin Yen behind him. He raised his chin arrogantly and stared expressionlessly at the guards, who were as cold as mountains. Qin Yen was his master's woman. How could he let this girl come to harm in his residence? Furthermore, this little girl was the woman he liked. The corners of Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a smile as she looked at Yi Ling's figure. However, when her gaze turned towards Empress Rong and her son, a murderous intent gradually flashed across her pitch-black eyes. "Yi Ling, you're disobeying my orders for a little girl?" Empress Rong's chest trembled with rage. She had clearly heard this delicate and pretty little girl address Yun Luofeng as Mississippi. From this, it could be seen that she was only a servant girl who served others. Now, Yi Ling had actually disobeyed her for a little servant girl? "Humph," Yi Ling scoffed coldly and replied expressionlessly, "Qin Yen is not a servant girl, she is my imperial consort." It was like thunder. Aside from Yun Luofeng, everyone else was dumbfounded. The third Prince Yi Ling, who had such high standards, had actually taken a fancy to a little servant girl? What was so special about this little maidservant that she caught his eye? Qin Yen was stunned as well. Her clear eyes stared fixedly at Yi Ling, who was standing in front of her, and a faint blush appeared on her delicate and pretty face. Did he just say that she was his imperial consort? Suddenly, Qin Yan's eyes darkened as if she had remembered something. There was a bitter taste in her mouth. She was only a little servant girl. How could the Emperor of Flowing Gold Country allow Yi Ling to marry her? That was an unrealistic question. Empress Rong finally returned to her senses. Her expression changed unpredictably. "You're saying that you want a servant girl to be your imperial consort? Is this fellow destroying his own future? If he really does this, the civil and military officials of Flowing Gold Country will never be able to protect him. After all, a little servant girl is not suitable for the position of Empress of the nation." Chapter 180. I've made up my mind. I want to marry Qin Yen. No one can stop me. Yi Ling raised his handsome face arrogantly and stared coldly at Empress Rong. His voice was bone-chilling, like a fierce winter wind. Empress Rong's beautiful eyes darted around. "Since you insist on marrying a little servant girl, I won't force you. I will report this to His Majesty and let him handle it. Yi Ling, since you want to give up on the throne, then Luo or will accept it on your behalf. His Majesty will never allow a servant girl to become the mother of the nation. Luo, let's go." Empress Rong no longer hesitated and turned to walk out of the courtyard. Yi Luo was taken aback and hurriedly chased after her. he asked anxiously. Imperial Mother, are we just going to let this go? Don't worry, there are some things she can't decide herself. Empress Rong laughed coldly. Luo go make the arrangements. Imperial Mother is going to Zephyr Pavilion to see Steward Wu Zhong. But Imperial Mother, the third prince's residence. Yi Luo's eyes were filled with greed and reluctance. There were too many treasures in the third prince's residence. Wouldn't it be great if all of them belonged to him? How could Empress Rong not sense Yi Luo's intentions? Her red lips curled into a confident smile as she spoke slowly. Luo when you become the emperor, what can you not have? When that time comes, all you need to do is say the word and Yi Ling will obediently offer all of his treasures to you. This is the benefit of power. The benefits of power were great. Empress Rong knew this very well. She liked the feeling of being in control of someone else's fate. I understand, Imperial Mother. Yi Luo's eyes brightened. He licked his dry lips and his treacherous eyes swept over the place, carving every blade of grass and tree of the third prince's residence into his mind. Every time he thought about how all of these precious treasures would belong to him in the future, he had the urge to throw his head back and laugh maniacally. Yi Ling, you've chosen a servant girl as your concubine. This means that you've already given up on the throne. Don't regret it. The day of my registration will be the day of your death. In the courtyard, Yi Ling stared at the retreating figures of the people from the palace, and a trace of coldness appeared in her eyes. Just as he was pondering, the young girl's lazy voice slowly sounded out by his ear. Yi Ling, remember what you said earlier. I'll leave Qinyan in your care. Yi Ling was startled. He turned his head and met Yun Luofeng's pitch-black eyes. He gently pursed his thin lips and nodded firmly. Master, don't worry. I will protect her. With me around, no one can hurt her. No one can stop me from marrying her heart. As his thoughts had long been seen through by Yun Luofeng, Yi Ling no longer concealed the love in her heart. Her gentle gaze gradually turned towards Qin Yan. Qin Yan, will you marry me? Qin Yan's face instantly blushed and she clutched the corner of her robes shyly. I don't want to get married in the next few years. I still want to spend more time with you, Miss Qin Yan. Marrying Yi Ling doesn't mean that you can't work for me. Yun Luofeng chuckled. However, if you're not in such a hurry to get married, you can get engaged first. There's no harm in waiting a few years before you get married. Miss Qin Yan's head was almost buried in the dust. Even her voice was as soft as a mosquito's. The back of her ears were bright red and she was extremely shy. Chapter 181. Master's idea is a good one. Yi Ling looked gently at Qin Yan and said with a smile, Qin Yan, you are the woman I want to find. I admire your strength, perseverance, loyalty and protectiveness. Besides, as long as I want to marry you, no one can stop me. He admired her character, but he had only developed feelings for this little girl after spending more than half a year with her. He was not a man who cared about family status. As long as he loved her, he would marry her even if she was a beggar. If he did not love her, it would be useless even if the emperor's daughter came. I'll listen to you, Mississippi. What she meant was that she agreed with their idea. But because she was too shy, she did not directly acknowledge Yi Ling. Yi Ling's heart leaped with joy, and she knelt on one knee in front of Yun Luofeng. Master, I sincerely thank you. It's because of you that I was able to meet Qin Yan. From now on, I'll protect her with my life. Please don't worry, Master. Yun Luofeng gently raised his hand. In an instant, a powerful force grabbed Yi Ling's body and pulled her up. Yi Ling looked at Yun Luofeng in surprise. In reality, Yi Ling was similar to the others. She thought that Yun Luofeng's medical skills were very strong, but his strength was not that great. In addition, Yun Luofeng had never revealed his strength in the past half a year. Hence, she had no idea of Yun Luofeng's strength. But now, under the young girl's power, he could not even exert a little bit of his strength. It was clear to see how strong this young girl was. Above a high spiritualist? An earth spiritualist? Whether it was Long Yuan country or flowing gold country, the most powerful people were only high spiritualists. If Yun Luofeng really became an earth spiritualist, no one in several countries would be a match for her. Yi Ling, I want you to stand by Qin Yan's side no matter what happens. Even if you have to become enemies with your loved ones, are you willing? I'm willing. Yi Ling said these 3 words resolutely. All right, find a suitable time and I'll arrange a marriage for you. Yun Luofeng's lips curled into a demonic smile. This little girl, Qin Yan, has been by her side for a long time. She would definitely choose a good husband for her. It was obvious that the current Yi Ling fulfilled her requirement. Also, you need to be prepared. Empress Rong will not let you off so easily. More importantly, she will definitely go to Wu Zhong. I want to see how Wu Zhong will react. If it wasn't to test Wu Zhong, she wouldn't have let Empress Rong leave unscathed just because she heard Empress Rong say she would be beaten to death. Murderous intent flashed across Yun Luofeng's eyes as she coldly laughed. Revenge is a dish best served cold. If Empress Rong really had something to do with the death of her parents, then she would definitely settle the scores with her. Windfall Pavilion. Empress Rong sat in the main hall with a cup of tea in her hand. She sipped it gracefully. Steward Wu Zhong, I came to visit because I have a gift for you. What gift? Wu Zhongtou only cared about the tea in his hand. From beginning to end, he did not even look at Empress Rong. His voice was cold and disdainful. The Windfall Pavilion had a very high status in the flowing gold country. As the steward of the Windfall Pavilion, Wu Zhong naturally had the right to look down on the Empress. Empress Rong's expression did not look too good, but she suppressed the displeasure in her heart in the end. She smiled gracefully. It's like this. Some time ago, I accidentally met a beautiful girl. I also found out that this beautiful girl admires Steward Wu Zhong. She especially asked me to come and plead on her behalf. She is willing to become Steward Wu Zhong's concubine. All I need is for Steward Wu Zhong to send someone from the Windfall Pavilion to fetch her. Chapter 182. Everyone knew that Steward Wu Zhong had no hobbies other than beautiful women. This was the only way to please him. Sure enough, after hearing Empress Rong's words, Wu Zhong's eyes shone with a strange light and his brows were filled with great interest. Oh! He raised an eyebrow and looked excited. What does the girl look like? Do you have a portrait? Empress Rong smiled confidently. She raised her hand and clapped twice. Servants, bring out the portrait. Yes, Your Majesty. Hearing this, the 2 palace maids behind Empress Rong held a portrait in their hands and walked lightly towards Wu Zhong. Steward Wu Zhong, this is the portrait of the girl. If you like it, I will be the matchmaker and have her marry as a princess of the imperial family. Empress Rong smiled gracefully. She had her reasons for doing this. Since she wanted to build a good relationship with Wu Zhong, the imperial family had to step in and accept Yun Luofeng as their adopted daughter. Only then would it be beneficial to the imperial family. Wu Zhong slowly unrolled the portrait in his hand. When he saw the arrogant and haughty girl in white, his heart stopped beating and his eyes filled with awe. This painting was beautifully drawn, and even the arrogance between her brows could be seen on the scroll. Her snow-white dress fluttered in the wind, and her chin was slightly raised as she stared at the deep blue sky. The corners of her lips curled into a mocking smile, as if she didn't even put the heavens in her eyes. Not bad at all. I've lived for so many years but I've never seen such a beautiful girl. Wu Zhong closed the portrait and praised sincerely, Empress Rong, are you sure this girl is willing to marry me? Empress Rong smiled confidently. As soon as this girl heard of Steward Wu Zhong's name, she said that she wouldn't marry anyone but you. You can rest assured, Steward Wu Zhong. All you need to do is make some preparations and pick a day to marry her. Luofeng Pavilion was a powerful force. If the Luofeng Pavilion were to personally escort the girl would not be able to defy them. Empress, may I ask for this girl's name? Wu Zhong asked after a moment of silence. I don't know her name. I only know that her surname is Yun. Cloud? Wu Zhong was stunned. If he remembered correctly, the deputy pavilion master seemed to have mentioned that the real master behind the scenes of the Windfall Pavilion was also surnamed Yun. It couldn't be such a coincidence, right? As if amused by his own thoughts, Wu Zhong laughed and shook his head helplessly, denying the suspicion in his heart. Even though he had never seen his master's true appearance, he knew that a 14-year-old young girl did not have the ability to assume the position of the pavilion master of the Drifting Wind Pavilion. Therefore, it was impossible for this girl to be his master behind the scenes. Unfortunately, things did not go as he wished. Wu Zhong had never imagined that the master behind the Windfall Pavilion was really just a 14-year-old girl. By the time he found out, it was already too late for regrets. After Empress Rong took her leave, she didn't even have time to walk out of the Zephyr Pavilion when a petite figure suddenly entered her line of sight, causing her expression to instantly darken. "Stop!" Empress Rong snorted coldly. She turned her gloomy gaze towards the little servant girl who had been blocked by her and asked coldly, "Why are you here?" Qing Yan did not expect to see Empress Rong here. Her expression froze for a moment and a trace of surprise flashed across her clear eyes. Chapter 183. How dare you? Our Empress is asking you a question, and you refuse to answer. The palace maid's expression changed when she saw the stunned Qing Yan. She stepped forward and scolded her loudly. Qing Yan returned to her senses and a disdainful smile appeared on her pretty and adorable face. Even the members of the imperial family can come here, why can't I? Impudence! The palace maid raised her chin and glanced at Qing Yan disdainfully. You're just a little servant girl and you dare to compare yourself to Her Majesty, the Empress? Our Majesty is the mother of the world, and there's no place in this world that she can't go. Who do you think you are? What right do you have to compare yourself to Her Majesty? Furthermore, did your master not teach you that you need to kneel when you see the Empress? What does it mean to be a dog that relies on its master's power? This was vividly displayed by the palace maids. As fellow maidservants, they had always felt that they were a cut above others. Their words clearly showed that they had no regard for Qing Yan. I may be a maidservant, but I only serve one person. In this world, the only person who can make me kneel is my lady. Who do you think you are? I, Qing Yan, am a girl with a backbone. I will never yield to power. Qing Yan's flushed face was filled with determination. She raised her chin fearlessly and her clear eyes were like a clear spring, reflecting the ferocious look on her face. You! Empress Rong never thought that this little servant girl would dare to speak to her in such a manner. Her face turned red with anger and she pointed a finger angrily at Qing Yan's nose. Since you wish to become the third prince's consort, you can't be so unruly. Guards, bring this girl into the palace. I want to teach her how to respect her elders and how to be a daughter-in-law of the imperial family. Empress Rong gritted her teeth as she spoke. Her ferocious expression made it seem as if she could not wait to tear Qing Yan apart and devour her. Now, even a little servant girl dares to look down on her. If she does not set the rules, who in the flowing gold kingdom would dare to obey her orders from now on? Yes, your majesty. The palace maids rubbed their fists and walked towards Qing Yan. Their faces were extremely ferocious and their eyes shone with a sinister light. You want to teach me the rules? You don't have the right. Qing Yan sneered. As the saying goes, like master, like maid. In this half a year, Qing Yan didn't learn anything else, but she learned a bit of Yun Luofeng's arrogance. It was because she understood that she was the young Miss servant girl. No matter what, she could not embarrass the young miss, and she could not show weakness in front of the enemy. Bang! After the palace maids grabbed onto Qing Yan's arm, a wave of power leaked out from within Qing Yan's body, sending the palace maids flying in an instant and sending them crashing miserably to the ground. Empress Rong's expression froze. She never thought that Qing Yan, as a maidservant, would have a cultivation base. No wonder Yi Ling didn't treat her like an ordinary servant. Unfortunately, A maidservant was a maidservant. No matter what, she couldn't change her fate of serving others. Damned girl, if you want to be the third prince's consort, you have to get my permission first. This consort will enter the palace right now and explain this matter to His Majesty. This consort will make it so that you'll never be able to be with that brat Yi Ling for the rest of your life. Qing Yan looked disdainfully at the ashen-faced Empress Rong and said mockingly, I didn't say I wanted to be the third prince's wife. The person I like is Yi Ling, not the third prince. If Yi Ling is willing to be a prince, she will be his consort. If he is unwilling, she will only be his future wife. Chapter 184. Good, very good. Remember what you said. Empress Rong's eyes were dark. She turned towards the servants of the Windfall Pavilion and gritted her teeth. The security at your Windfall Pavilion is too lax. You've let just anyone in. If Steward Wu Zhong were to punish you, would you be able to bear the consequences? Your Majesty, I'm truly sorry. The servant was stopped by Empress Rong, but he did not get angry. Instead, he wore an appropriate smile on his face and looked apologetic. Empress Rong's face lit up with pride. She was just about to order the servants to throw Qing Yan out when the servant suddenly changed his tone and continued, You're right. You're right. Our Windfall Pavilion isn't a place where just anyone can enter. Please leave, Your Majesty. Empress Rong's face froze. She widened her beautiful eyes and pointed a fair finger at the servant of the Windfall Pavilion. She asked in disbelief, What did you just say? Your Majesty, this is Windfall Pavilion's territory. If Your Majesty causes trouble here, I'll have someone escort you out. The servant bowed slightly and replied in a manner that was neither servile nor overbearing. Aren't you afraid that I'll complain to Steward Wu Zhong? Empress Rong gritted her teeth and roared angrily. The servant's eyes flashed with disdain when he heard this. I just don't want anyone to sully Windfall Pavilion's territory. I have no other intentions. If Your Majesty thinks that Steward Wu Zhong will punish me for this, then I'll just have to admit that I'm unlucky. You're all very good. Empress Rong's eyes darkened. Her gaze swept across the servant like a knife and landed on Qing Yan. Just you wait for today's matter. I will not let this matter rest. This was Windfall Pavilion's territory after all. She did not dare to act rashly. Furthermore, the servant was helping this little SL*T so much. Perhaps they had an affair. Once she has gained Wu Zhong's trust, she would settle the score with him. Let's go. Empress Rong's voice sank at the thought and she ordered icily. Yes, Your Majesty. The palace maids responded respectfully. They could not understand why Empress Rong, the mother of the nation, would want to curry favor with the servants of Windfall Pavilion. He didn't even dare to act rashly in front of a mere servant. Miss Qing Yan. The servant did not even look at the furious Empress Rong. He turned to face Qing Yan and greeted her respectfully. What's your name? Qing Yan raised her eyebrows and looked at the person before her as she asked. I'm Fong Yu. Does Miss Qing Yan have anything else to say? Fong Yu's voice was neither servile nor overbearing, but it was clearly more respectful than when he was in front of Empress Rong. Although he did not know Qing Yan's true identity, he had often seen Qing Yan by the Vice Pavilion Master's side during the past 6 months. Especially the way they interacted, it was as if they were friends. Because of this, many people in the Windfall Pavilion guessed that Qing Yan might be the same as the Vice Pavilion Master. They were both people by the Pavilion Master's side. That was why she was able to obtain the Vice Pavilion Master's respect and trust. You did very well just now, Qing Yan nodded her chin in satisfaction. There are very few people like you who can handle things like this. I will report to the Pavilion Master later, and let you be promoted. Qing Yan was referring to the Pavilion Master, not the Vice Pavilion Master. Fong Yu was a little dumbfounded when he heard this. He raised his eyebrows in astonishment and stared in the direction where Qing Yan had left. His eyes were filled with deep shock. As expected, Miss Qing Yan really is one of the Pavilion Master's people. As soon as he thought about his promotion, Fang Yu became very excited. Chapter 185. Xiao, so you're here. You've certainly made it difficult for me to find you. The woman in red slowly walked towards the man in front of her amidst the dark clouds in the forest. Her eyes were filled with gentleness and yearning. The man's grim figure was clearly reflected in her beautiful eyes. The man's face was covered by an ice-cold mask and his body exuded a grim aura that no one could approach. This aura forced the woman in red to stop in her track. However, a gentle smile still hung on her face. During this period of time, two forces have been looking for you. One is the eldest lady of the Spirit Order and the other is the Shao family. Even though they haven't mentioned your name, I know that the person they're looking for is you. Yun Shao gently pursed his light red lips as if he had not heard the woman in red's words. His grim gaze continued to stare at an empty spot not too far away from him. I'm afraid that no one knows better than you why the eldest lady of the Spirit Order is looking for you. The woman in red covered her lips and smiled tenderly. Her beautiful eyes swirled and rippled with light. Who asked you to be so mesmerizing? Even with a mask on, you can attract countless women. If you were to remove your mask, who knows how many people would go crazy for you. Unfortunately, this man was far too grim. His black eyes never wavered in the slightest. I really don't know if there's anything in this world that could move him. As for the Shao family, the woman in red noticed that Yun Shao had ignored her, but she was not angered. She continued to smile and said, I've heard that the Shao family once had a good-for-nothing young master who was chased out of the Shao family when he was 7 years old. Since then, there has been no news of him. I wonder what's your relationship with that young master of the Shao family? Her words carried a sense of probing as her beautiful eyes glanced towards Yun Shao. What disappointed her was that this man remained unmoved, as if what she had just said was an unimportant matter. If Yun Luofeng was here, he would certainly be able to guess that the young master of the Shao family who had been chased out of the family was Yun Shao. There was no other reason than that Yun Zhao's physique was the illusory spirit body. People who possessed this kind of physique would not be able to cultivate before the age of 10 and would only advance by leaps and bounds after the age of 10. Hence, a large family like the Shao family could not tolerate the existence of trash and would very likely chase him out of the family. Shao, the woman in red pursed her red lips as a strange light flashed across her beautiful eyes. The Shao family doesn't seem to know about your true identity. I understand that you don't want the snobbish Shao family to know about your current strength. If you're willing to let me stay by your side, I'll help you keep your secret. What do you think? Her eyes were filled with infatuation. I don't want to be your wife. I just want to be by your side and risk my life for you. There was finally a slight change in Yun Zhao's gaze. His grim gaze slowly turned towards the red-robed woman's beautiful face as he spoke expressionlessly. There is another type of person who can keep a secret. That is, a dead person. The red-robed woman's expression changed abruptly as she bit her lips tightly. Shao Yu. My name is Yun Shao. The man's aura spread out and covered the sky as he charged towards the red-robed woman. His gaze was as cold as a hawk's as he spoke expressionlessly. You have no right to call me Shao. Hee, the red-robed woman laughed bitterly. Under the man's aura, her body felt as if it was being crushed by a great mountain and she was unable to move. Everyone says that the Ghost Emperor is cold and heartless, especially towards women. He does not have any tender feelings for the fairer sex. Now that I've seen it, it seems to be true. Yun Zhao's voice was low and hoarse as he stared coldly at the red-robed woman. I, Yun Shao, will only have tender feelings for one woman in this life. But that person is not you. Chapter 186. I, Yun Shao, will only take pity on one woman in this life. But that person is not you. The man's cold and merciless words completely hurt the woman in red, causing her face to turn incomparably pale. Suddenly, she was envious of the woman the Ghost Emperor had mentioned. What kind of peerless beauty could make this man take pity on her? I really want to meet that lady, so that I can understand why I've lost. Her beautiful face lit up with a bitter smile. The bitterness in her heart had long spread and her eyes were filled with pain. And if my guess is correct, that lady is Long Yuan Country's famous good-for-nothing, Yun Luofeng? As soon as Yun Luofeng's name was mentioned, she could clearly feel the man's increasingly cold aura. This aura was like a sharp long sword, causing her heart to instantly bleed. Thinking of the news she had received during this period of time, the woman in red bit her lip and raised her beautiful eyes to stare straight at Yun Shao. Someone as honorable as you, why would you willingly become a guard for a woman? Could it be that you've lowered yourself just so that she would approve of you? The man gently pursed his thin lips and his grim gaze swept icily towards the woman in red. Then, he finally took a step forward and slowly walked towards the woman in red. With every step that the man took, the woman in red found it difficult to breathe. It was as if a hand was fiercely squeezing her heart, making it hard for her to breathe. You don't deserve to know the reason. You don't deserve to know. The woman in red laughed self-deprecatingly. This man is always so heartless. His every word and action was like a sharp thorn, piercing fiercely into her heart, causing her already battered heart to become even more fragmented. Shao, you want to kill me? Upon sensing the man's murderous intent, the woman in red's body trembled. Her beautiful eyes stared at the man who was walking towards her, her face turning increasingly pale. You know too many things. The man's words were concise and comprehensive as usual, unwilling to say anything unimportant. What? The woman in red clearly did not understand Yun Zhao's meaning and was slightly taken aback. You know of her existence. The man glanced coldly at the woman in red and the murderous aura on his body intensified. I won't let any danger stay by her side. In other words, since this woman had been pestering him endlessly and knew of Yun Luofeng's existence, he would not allow such a danger to exist no matter what. No! The woman in red screamed as she stumbled back. Her face was drained of all color as she stared at Yun Shao with a heartbroken gaze. I was only curious about what kind of woman she was. I had no intention of hurting her. You can't do this to me. Yun Shao had already walked in front of the red-clothed woman, and there was no longer any path of retreat behind the woman. Her tightly bitten lips were no longer as rosy as they were at the beginning, but had turned pale. I won't use her to test you. I will only nip all dangers in the bud. He didn't dare to take the risk, and he didn't dare to gamble on whether or not this woman wanted to take revenge on Yun Luofeng, because the consequences of losing the gamble was not something he could bear. Bang! The woman's legs went soft and she fell to the ground. Her hands gripped the ground beneath her tightly, and her sharp nails dug deep into the soil as she grabbed a handful of soil. She knew that Yun Shao was speaking the truth. Even though she had no intention of killing Yun Luofeng now, she could not be sure if she would be able to maintain a calm heart when she actually sees Yun Luofeng. Chapter 187. It was likely that anyone who faced a love rival would find it difficult to do so. Yun Shao, I can't have you in this lifetime, but if I were to die in your hands, it would be a form of release for me. The woman in red gently closed her eyes and the corners of her lips curled into a faint smile. Yun Luofeng, you really make one extremely envious. Even though you're just a good-for-nothing and have a lowly status, you're the only soft spot in this cold and heartless man's heart. In order to prevent you from being hurt, he did not hesitate to nip all dangers in the bud. I don't know what King luck you had in your past life to be able to obtain such an outstanding man. Tui. Suddenly, a wave of energy entered from the top of her head, and even her body was pushed open. She slowly opened her eyes and gazed at the man in front of her with deep affection and longing, carving his figure deeply into her mind. Yun Shao, if it wasn't for Yun Luofeng, would you have allowed me to stay by your side? She stubbornly wanted to know the answer, even though she clearly knew the other party's choice. The man did not reply to her. Perhaps to him, saying another word to her was a waste of breath. He naturally had an answer in his heart, and there was no need to say it to an unimportant person. Yun Xiao, I don't regret knowing you. The woman in red smiled bitterly. Even if she was given another chance, she would still fall in love with this man. However, she would not be as impulsive as she was today, because the result of her impulsiveness was not to obtain him but to lose her life here. Tui! A muffled sound suddenly rang out. Immediately after, the woman in red's body seemed to have been poked with countless holes. Blood flowed continuously from those holes, and at the same time, her body was like a deflated balloon, gradually shriveling up. Master! Qin Yuan appeared behind Yun Xiao and looked coldly at the woman in red, who was gradually falling to the ground. There was no trace of sympathy or pity in his eyes. Just as Master had said, if this woman was not killed, she would definitely cause countless troubles. She would also cause trouble for Miss Yun. However, it was obvious that Miss Yun was Master's reverse scale. How could Master allow anyone who could threaten her to exist? He would only nip all dangers in the bud. He would never give it the chance to sprout. How are we going to deal with the Xiao family? Qin Yuan frowned. This woman is right. Recently, the Xiao family has indeed been searching for Master. It's just that they don't know about Master's current achievements. Otherwise, the Xiao family would definitely kneel down and apologize. Yun Xiao gently lowered his eyes. The face under the mask was cold and callous. His hands were clasped behind his back from start to finish, his ramrod straight figure standing amidst the mountain wind. The corners of his pale red lips seemed to curl into a mocking smile. But this smile disappeared so quickly that Qin Yuan thought his eyes were playing tricks on him. His master, who had always been expressionless, could actually have other expressions? How is Gao Ling? Yun Zhao's black eyes slowly turned towards Qin Yuan, and he asked coldly. Ah! Qin Yuan was stunned. He did not expect Yun Xiao to ask about Gao Ling's condition at this time. After a moment of silence, he replied, living a life worse than death. That's right, Gao Ling's life was worse than death. If it wasn't for the fact that he didn't have the courage to commit suicide, perhaps he would have already died. Compared to the physical pain he was suffering, the psychological trauma he had suffered over the past few days was the most torturous. Especially the humiliation he had received from his benefactors. He wanted nothing more than to hack them into 1,000 pieces. Chapter 188. Continue. Yun Xiao threw this sentence at him and walked out of the forest, leaving a dumbfounded Qin Yuan behind. Continue? What does that mean? Could it be that Gao Ling has offended Master in some way? No, I must inform Chun Yang and make her punish Yun Xiao even more severely. Gao Ling probably did not expect Yun Zhao's casual words to cause him to suffer unimaginable torment. From then on, all the guests he had received had changed from normal people to a bunch of perverts. In the days that followed, he finally understood what cruelty was. His experience in the bamboo building has become an eternal nightmare in his heart. By the Emperor's orders, His Royal Highness, the Third Prince, is to bring Miss Yun to the palace to see the Emperor. She is to be bestowed upon by the Emperor. The tranquility of the Third Prince's residence was broken by this sharp voice. Yun Luofeng, who was sitting in the pavilion, slightly raised her eyebrows. A smile flashed in her demonic and charming black eyes. She lazily got up and turned her head to look at the little servant girl, Qin Yan, beside her. She asked, Qin Yan, do you want to come with me to see your in-laws? Qin Yan was shocked and raised her head to look at Yun Luofeng. When she saw Yun Luofeng's mocking smile, she realized that she was teasing her. She stomped her foot angrily and said, My lady, you're teasing me again. The imperial family will never accept me. However, if my lady wishes to enter the palace, I will follow you. Let's go. Yun Luofeng shrugged her shoulders and a strange light flashed across her dark eyes. She smiled soundlessly. I want to know what choice Wu Zhong has made. Qin Yan nodded seriously. My lady, I met Empress Rong when I went to Zephyr Pavilion today. She must have gone for Steward Wu Zhong. If Wu Zhong is truly disloyal, he is not fit to serve you, my lady. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of her lips and walked out of the courtyard. She raised her head to look at the azure sky, and the demonic smile in her eyes became even more pronounced. Was she not here to meet the Emperor of Flowing Gold Country? This was because only by meeting that man would she be able to clearly understand who had killed her parents back then. Therefore, no matter how big of a move she made, there was only one goal, and that was to enter the palace. All the civil and military officials were gathered in the majestic main hall of the imperial palace. As their leader, General Yi had a worried look on his face as he glanced at Yun Luofeng from time to time. To him, Yun Luofeng's identity must have been discovered by His Majesty. That's why His Majesty summoned her. If that's the case, then her life will be in danger. My beloved subjects, I have summoned you here to make an announcement. On the high seat was a bright yellow dragon robe, but it did not set off the man's imposing manner. His face was a little pale, and it was obvious that it was because he had overindulged in lust. His foundation was obviously weak, and this was the result of indulging in lust. Although the Emperor of Long Yuan country was a fatuous ruler, he was only overly biased towards the Mu family. However, the Emperor of Flowing Gold country, Director Yi, was a fatuous and tyrannical man. All day long, he only knew how to fool around with the beauties in his harem and paid no attention to court affairs. Director Yi coughed lightly, and a dignified look appeared on his pale face. Yesterday, Empress Rong went to the third prince's residence and met this Miss Yun. She hit it off with her at first sight and is willing to adopt her as her daughter. Hence, I have summoned all my beloved subjects here to make this announcement. Since the steward of Zephyr Pavilion had taken a liking to this woman, he had to win her over to the imperial palace no matter what. Only then could the imperial palace benefit greatly. Chapter 189. The officials were in an uproar. All the officials looked at each other in dismay, their eyes full of surprise. Some of them even sized up Yun Luofeng, as if they were wondering what on earth this girl was capable of to make Empress Rong admire her so much. This official objects. Under Director Ye's dissatisfied gaze, Ibufan slowly stepped forward and lowered his head. Your Majesty, if Empress Rong wants to adopt her as her daughter, then she will be the princess of Flowing Gold country. This is too rash, this official disagrees. He had received news that Empress Rong had left the third prince's residence in a huff, so how could they hit it off? Thus, no matter what they were planning, he would never agree to this. Humph! Director Yi snorted coldly. General Yi, I have already decided on this matter, so you don't have to say anything more. There's no time like the present. Today, I will adopt this daughter and add her name to the family tree. From beginning to end, Director Yi had never asked for Yun Luofeng's opinion. In his opinion, Yun Luofeng's opinion wasn't very important. As the emperor, wouldn't it be a piece of cake for her to accept a daughter as her foster daughter? But Director Yi narrowed his eyes slightly as he looked at the girl's beautiful and exquisite face. He had the urge to take her into his harem. If it wasn't for the fact that he wanted to hook up with Luofeng Pavilion, he wouldn't have been willing to give away such a peerless beauty. Your Majesty! Please reconsider, said Ibufan in a serious tone. Shut up! Director Yi flew into a rage and slammed his palm on the table. General Yi, you're too long-winded. Once I've decided on something, I will never change my mind. Ibufan shook his head helplessly and smiled bitterly. His Majesty would never listen to good advice. Just then, a demonic and lazy voice suddenly rang out, making the atmosphere in the main hall even more tense. Every word and action of yours is about to decide my fate, but have you ever asked for my opinion? Director Yi couldn't help frowning as he turned to look at the girl in white in the main hall. Becoming my daughter will only bring you benefits and absolutely no harm. If you don't have the title of Imperial Princess, do you think Luofeng Pavilion will marry you? Even though Director Yi was an emperor and had an arrogant temperament, he was well aware of the Windfall Pavilion's strength. This was especially so for Steward Wu Zhong. When he first joined the Windfall Pavilion, his name had already spread throughout the Flowing Gold Nation. Steward Wu Zhong had originally wanted to pay a heavy price to recruit him, but who would have thought that he would choose the Windfall Pavilion in the end? Wu Zhong agreed? Yi Ling's eyes darkened, and a trace of coldness flashed across her eyes. He did not reveal his identity in the Windfall Pavilion and even used the name Yi Ling to become the deputy pavilion master. However, everyone in the Windfall Pavilion could tell that he did not have a good impression of the imperial family. Wu Zhong actually agreed to Empress Rong's request? This action was clearly provoking him. Impudent! Chairman Ye's eyes turned cold as he reprimanded. Unfilial son, who allowed you to interrupt without my permission? As a hostage of the Long Yuan nation, you sneaked back to your country. I have already sent someone to inform the Long Yuan nation. In a few days you will leave with the people from the Long Yuan nation. He would never allow Yi Ling to return. Who knew if Yi Ling's escape would lead to another war between the two countries? Hearing Chairman Ye's words, Yi Ling's heart gradually turned cold. They were both his sons, but the difference between them was not small at all. She really didn't know what else was there for him to miss in a place like this? Chapter 190. Little did they know that Chairman Ye's words also hurt the hearts of the civil and military officials. Ibufan looked at Yi Ling with heartache and shook his head. A bitter smile hung on his face. For the first time, he regretted persevering for such an emperor. Can you see it clearly? Yun Luofeng walked to Yi Ling's side, his lips curling into an evil smile. These so-called relatives? Since ancient times, the royal family was heartless. In a family like this, how could there be true father-son love? Yi Ling laughed mockingly. Ever since a few years ago, when he wanted to sue for peace, he sent me to Long Yuan country as a hostage. From then on, I've seen through him. Chairman Ye's face darkened. Unfilial son, as a prince of our country, you should contribute to our country. But you, not only did you escape back to your country, you even wanted to marry a servant girl. You're simply a disgrace to the royal family. Since that's the case, you should go to Long Yuan country and spend the rest of your life there, dying of old age. Guards, arrest him and throw him in jail until the people from the Long Yuan nation arrive. As you command. The guards cupped their fists and walked coldly toward Yi Ling, quickly surrounding the few people in the hall. Yun Luofeng crossed her arms in front of her chest, exuding a demonic aura. Her black eyes were incomparably dark and contained an evil smile. I'm afraid you won't have the chance to put Yi Ling in jail. As soon as he finished speaking, the sound of music could be heard from outside the hall. Then, several maidservants carrying a bridal sedan slowly descended from the sky. At the very front of the sedan was a middle-aged man. The middle-aged man was already over 50 years old, but because he had taken good care of his body, his face was glowing with health. He stroked his black beard and walked into the main hall with satisfaction. Empress Rong once said that her newly adopted daughter adores me. Now I can't wait to marry her. I wonder if my wife is here? Wu Zhong laughed heartily as he walked in. As soon as he stepped into the main hall, he noticed a stunning young girl dressed in a snow-white dress. His narrowed eyes showed an undisguised sense of amazement. Right after Wu Zhong finished admiring the young woman's peerlessly beautiful face, he accidentally caught a glimpse of Yi Ling, who stood by the young woman's side, and his face instantly stiffened while his gaze was filled with surprise. Deputy Pavilion Master? Why is he here? Moreover, he was surrounded by the Imperial Guards? Wu Zhong, who did not know what was going on, stopped in his tracks. No one knew what he was thinking. However, Chairman Yi did not notice the strange expression on his face. He smiled and said, "She is my newly adopted daughter. This time, she will represent the Flowing Gold Nation in marriage with your Windfall Pavilion. Are you satisfied with her, Steward Wu Zhong?" He seemed to have forgotten about Yun Luofeng's rejection and directly arranged her fate. At this moment, Ibufan finally understood why Empress Rong wanted to adopt her as her daughter. It turned out that Empress Rong wanted to use her to curry favor with the Windfall Pavilion. This matter was truly disappointing to him. Under everyone's gazes, Yi Ling's gaze slowly shifted towards Wu Zhong. His handsome face was covered in indifference as the corners of his mouth curled into a disdainful arc. I never imagined that I would really see you here. You've really disappointed me. Unfilial son. Chairman Ye's expression changed as he angrily rebuked. How dare you speak to someone from the Windfall Pavilion like that? Kneel down and apologize. The Windfall Pavilion's potential was extremely great, and even that lord thought highly of the Windfall Pavilion. If it was not for that lord's orders, he would not have used this method to curry favor with the Windfall Pavilion. Chapter 191. Yi Ling smiled disdainfully and ignored Director Yi. His piercingly cold eyes stared straight at Wu Zhong, sending chills down one's spine. Chairman Ye's words gave Wu Zhong a feeling of sudden enlightenment. Why had he not realized that Yi Ling was the third prince of flowing gold country, Yi Ling? No wonder he has a grudge against the imperial family. Even though he had been forced to leave his home as a hostage for a few years, he would still harbor hatred towards the people who had abandoned him. Unfilial son, kneel at once. Director Yi saw that Yi Ling did not respond and his tone became even more serious as he coldly ordered. Kneel? I'm afraid he can't bear it. Yi Ling's handsome face lit up with mockery as he slowly asked, Am I right, Steward Wu Zhong? He, Wu Zhong laughed dryly. Deputy Pavilion Leader is right. Even if I were given the courage of the heavens, I would never dare to ask the Deputy Pavilion Leader to kneel before me. I would never do something so disrespectful. Despite his dissatisfaction towards Yi Ling, Wu Zhong did not dare to refute him under such circumstances. Hence, he had no choice but to acknowledge Yi Ling's identity. However, his words were like a sudden clap of thunder that exploded in the crowd. Director Yi rose to his feet and stared fixedly at Wu Zhong's smiling face. His tightly clenched fists trembled as he asked, What did you just call Yi Ling? Deputy Pavilion Leader? That's right. Wu Zhong's eyes darkened as he replied with a faint smile. He's the Pavilion Leader of Windfall Pavilion. Thump! Chairman Yi staggered and fell heavily into his seat. His face was pale, and his heart was trembling violently. He was in a daze, and he was unable to recover from this reality. Yi Ling is the steward of Windfall Pavilion? It was laughable that he had given up a ready-made deputy pavilion leader to befriend a steward. How could he have known that the deputy pavilion leader of Windfall Pavilion was his own son? After all, how could he not know how powerful this kid is? No matter how talented he was, he could not possibly order a high spiritualist around. Ibufan stared blankly at this nephew that he hadn't seen for a few years. He suddenly realized that he could no longer see through his nephew. However, if his sister's spirit in heaven saw the changes in him, she would definitely feel extremely gratified. Did you just say that Empress Rong told you that I love you? And you actually believed it? Yun Luofeng slowly walked towards Wu Zhong, the corners of her lips curled into a smile. Her pitch-black eyes were incomparably deep, making it impossible for anyone to see through her gaze. When she arrived in front of Wu Zhong, the young girl stopped and raised her eyebrows slightly. I don't know where you get your confidence from to think that I would love someone like you who is already half a foot in the grave? Wu Zhong's face sank. He feared Yi Ling because Yi Ling was the deputy pavilion leader of the Windfall Pavilion. Even if this young woman had curried favor with the deputy pavilion leader, it was impossible for her to shake his position in the Windfall Pavilion. Thinking of this, he snorted coldly. On the mainland, as long as a man has money and power, there will be countless beautiful women throwing themselves at him. So, of course I have this confidence. Is that so? Yun Luofeng laughed evilly. If your power was given to you by the Windfall Pavilion, then the Windfall Pavilion can strip you of your power right now. If you're so confident because you're a high spiritualist, I can cripple your Dantian. Remember, I, Yun Luofeng, will never accept betrayal. Chapter 192. Yun Luofeng's voice was very soft, so soft that only she and Wu Zhong could hear it. Wu Zhong could not help but be stunned when he heard the young girl's words. Something flashed through his mind, and he almost caught it. Windfall Pavilion? Yun Luofeng? The master of Windfall Pavilion had the surname Yun? Wu Zhong finally thought of something from this aspect. His entire body froze in an instant, and his face turned deathly pale in an instant. No. Impossible. How could the master of Windfall Pavilion be such a young girl? If it was not her, why was Yi Ling by her side, and why did her name coincidentally have the two words Windfall in it? God! He actually thought that the master of Windfall Pavilion would admire him for power? The entire Windfall Pavilion belonged to her. Why would she cling onto a mere steward? Once he understood this, Wu Zhong's expression grew uglier. Whenever he thought of how Empress Rong had lied to him, a wave of hatred surged in his heart. Director Yi had recovered from his initial shock. He coughed dryly and said, "My son, why didn't you say so earlier as the assistant head of Windfall Pavilion? Since you've left Long Yuan country's control, you are still the prince of Flowing Gold Nation." Before this, Director Yi had sent Yi Ling to prison, and after learning of his identity, he had acknowledged him as his son. The two completely different attitudes made Yi Ling laugh coldly. "I'm afraid I don't have the fortune to enjoy the identity of Flowing Gold Nation's third prince. Other than that, I'm here to ask you something. Who killed Yun Yang and his wife?" "You." Director Yi was about to explode in anger when he heard Yi Ling's last sentence. His expression changed, and he snorted coldly. "That bastard Yun Yang was useless and died on the battlefield. Everyone knows this. Why are you asking this now?" Director Ye's eyes flickered as he spoke, avoiding the topic. "Is that true?" Suddenly, a chuckle could be heard. Yun Luofeng raised his brows slightly and looked at Director Ye's evasive gaze. If it wasn't for Flowing Gold Nation's honey trap, Mu Xingqiu wouldn't have revealed the secret. However, just revealing the secret alone wouldn't have killed them. I just want to know who killed them. Hearing the girl's voice, Chairman Ye's heart skipped a beat. "Who are you? What is your relationship with Yun Yang and his wife?" Yun Luofeng sneered. "I am Yun Yang and his wife's daughter, Yun Luofeng." Ibufan shook his head helplessly when he heard Yun Luofeng announce his name. He never thought that he would still have to face such a scene in the end. One was the emperor of the Flowing Gold Kingdom, and the other was the daughter of the person he deeply loved. What choice should he make? "Are you Yun Yang and Bai Ling's daughter?" Director Ye's expression changed completely. A hint of vigilance appeared in his eyes. "What are you doing here?" He did not expect Bai Ling's daughter to be here. No wonder he felt that this girl looked familiar from the beginning. She was Bai Ling's daughter. Whether it was her eyebrows or her facial features, they were exactly the same as Bai Ling. He actually could not recognize her at first. Yi Dong wasn't the same as Ibufan. Ibufan loved Bai Ling to the bone, and every frown and smile of hers was deeply engraved in his soul. Thus, he was able to see through Yun Luofeng's identity with a single glance. However, other people who had seen Bai Ling would only feel that Yun Luofeng looked familiar if they did not have a deep understanding of her. They would not be able to recognize her as Bai Ling's daughter. Chapter 193. I've told you, I'm here to find out who's the real culprit behind their deaths. Yun Luofeng slowly stepped forward. The peerlessly beautiful smile on her face carried a sense of danger like a poppy. Her slightly narrowed black eyes flashed with a cold light as she stared at Director Yi, who was seated high up on the throne. Director Yi returned to his senses and scoffed icily at Yun Luofeng. How can there be no casualties in a war between two countries? Yun Luofeng, what's the point of you coming here to dwell on this? We're already being merciful by not arresting you as a spy. Guards, take this woman away. He waved his hand and ordered coldly. I'd like to see who dares. Yi Ling walked towards Yun Luofeng's side and stared fearlessly at the ashen-faced Director Yi. His handsome face lit up with a disdainful smile as he said, Today, I won't let you touch her. All these years, Director Yi had never cared about him. In his heart, there had always been Empress Rong and her son. Hence, he had long been disappointed in this father in name. In comparison, it was Yun Luofeng who had given him a new lease of life. He had pulled himself together and given him the chance to take his revenge. Director Ye's expression changed and a fierce light flashed in his eyes. My son, even though you're the master of Zephyr Pavilion, you're still my son. Disobeying me is considered unfilial. If you don't want to be an unfilial son, step down. Not only will I let bygones be bygones, I will also make you the crown prince. Yi Ling laughed icily as his handsome face lit up with disdain. He clearly did not take Director Ye's words to heart. I don't care for the position of crown prince. How could the position of crown prince compare to being by Yun Luofeng's side? Hence, even if Director Yi were to step down now, he would not stay any longer. Just as Director Yi was about to lose his temper, a powerful force slammed into his mind with a loud bang, causing his body to tremble violently. In an instant, his mind went blank and his eyes turned lifeless from their initial anger. His gaze was now unfocused. The girl's voice was bewitching and lazy. She continued to tempt him. Tell me what happened that year, including the cause of my parents' death. Tell me everything you know. Chairman Yi looked at Yun Luofeng blankly. More than 10 years ago, I saw Bai Ling. She was so beautiful that even the gods were moved by her beauty, let alone a mere mortal like me. It was inevitable that his heart would be moved when he saw her. It was also during that period of time that the son of an official from my flowing gold country accidentally killed a prince of the Long Yuan country. Actually, for such a small matter, as long as I hand over the son of the official, I would be able to avoid a war. However, I was still trying to find an excuse to start a war with the Long Yuan country. Therefore, I decided to start a war with the Long Yuan country. These words were like a heavy weight that caused the figures of all the officials in the hall to tremble, and they seemed as if they'd suffered an extremely great shock. Among them, Yi Bufan had the biggest reaction. He had always thought that Chairman Yi was fighting against the Long Yuan nation to protect the citizens of the Flowing Gold nation. Even if the Flowing Gold Kingdom was in the wrong, he would still take up his weapon and fight. However, he never thought that the real cause of the war between the two countries was Chairman Ye's lust for beauty. Hee. Suddenly, he laughed. His laughter was filled with endless bitterness as his disappointed gaze fell upon Chairman Yi, who was seated on the dragon throne. So, in the end, those blood-soaked generals and soldiers had sacrificed themselves because of his selfishness. This kind of sacrifice was not worth it. Chapter 194. All the officials realized that something was wrong with Director Yi, but they were still in shock from the news. No one stepped forward to stop him, but they were still digesting his words. So, how did my parents die? Yun Luofeng's dark eyes were calm as she raised her beautiful face to look at Director Yi and continued to ask. Director Ye's voice was fierce. It's all because that woman, Bai Ling, dared to reject me. At that time, I sent someone to send her a letter. If she was willing to follow me, I would retreat immediately. However, she tore my letter and said that I was a toad lusting after a swan's flesh. Was it not? Compared to Bai Ling, who was as beautiful as a flower, Director Yi had nothing good about him other than his status as an emperor. How could she give up on a young major general and choose a fatuous emperor who was addicted to beauty? So, you plotted to kill them? Yun Luofeng's eyes narrowed dangerously. Even her tone was tinged with a murderous intent. Of course not. Chairman Yi harumphed. Bai Ling is a married woman. It's her honor that I'm willing to marry her. How dare she insult me? I'm going to get this woman and find 800 spiritual beasts to humiliate her. This is the price she has to pay for rejecting me. Ibufon's heart gradually turned cold. He slowly closed his eyes. At this moment, he did not know what kind of cruel torture awaited Bai Ling if she was really captured by the flowing gold kingdom. He had claimed that Bai Ling was the woman he loved, but he had never protected her well. He had even helped such a fatuous emperor to hurt her. He regretted it. This was the first time Ibufan regretted being so loyal. He did not hesitate to give up his love for a dog emperor. What a pity! Director Yi shook his head and said regretfully, I don't know who Bai Ling offended, but she died on the battlefield. It's such a pity for such a beautiful woman. She's already dead before I could have her. Yun Luofeng fell silent. Her eyes were dark and deep, no one could tell what she was thinking. Just now, she had used her power to control Director Ye's soul and forced him to tell her the answer she wanted to know. Therefore, it was impossible for Director Yi to lie. He really did not know the mastermind behind the couple's death. Soon, Yun Luofeng's frown relaxed and a glint flashed across her eyes. Young lady. Qinyan was a little nervous. She stood anxiously beside Yun Luofeng, her delicate face filled with anxiety. She did not expect that not only did she fail to find out the truth, she had also exposed herself. Would her young lady not be in danger? Qinyan, I've already gotten the result I wanted. We'll talk about the rest when we get back. Yun Luofeng raised his lips and smiled. He should wake up now. As soon as he finished speaking, the focus in Chairman Ye's eyes gradually returned. However, he was still a little confused as he had just woken up. After a while, he suddenly recalled what he had just said and his expression changed drastically. What did you do to me just now? Yi Ling, Yun Luofeng's gaze had long since left Chairman Ye's body. He smiled lazily. Today's mission is complete. Take Wu Zhong and come with me. Chapter 195. How dare you? Seeing that they were about to leave, Director Yi slammed the table and stood up furiously. General Yi, stop these people. As if he hadn't heard this order, Ibufan stood upright in the main hall, his eyes full of disappointment and mockery. He didn't even lift a hand to stop Yun Luofeng and the others as they walked past him. General Yi, how dare you disobey my order? Director Ye's expression changed as he shouted angrily. However, Ibufan still didn't move. He was as cold as a statue and didn't move at all. Bang! Watching the young girl and the others gradually disappear, Director Yi felt as if all the strength in his body had been sucked out. He suddenly fell back onto his throne and laughed in extreme anger. Good, very good, Ibufan. You're really a good person. You don't even listen to my order. What use do I have for you? Ibufan took 2 steps forward and bowed deeply as he said in a neither servile nor overbearing manner, Your Majesty, the third prince is the deputy pavilion leader of Luofeng Pavilion. No matter how capable this official is, I can't stop him. If Your Majesty thinks that this official is useless, you can take off this official's black hat and give it to someone who is useful. You, Director Yi trembled with anger. He really wanted to kill this guy this time. However, the number of strong cultivators in Flowing Gold Nation was decreasing, and he really didn't have the determination to kill Ibufan. Guards, General Yi disobeyed the imperial order. He's in seclusion and is not allowed to come out without my order. Director Yi stood up with an ashen face, flung his sleeves fiercely, and turned to leave. Luofeng Pavilion. Qin Yan looked at the young girl who was sitting at the table and sipping tea. In the end, she couldn't help asking, Miss, weren't we too impulsive today? Not only have we not found the murderer, but our target has also been exposed. Yun Luofeng put down the tea in her hand and an evil smile appeared on her lips. I knew long ago that the person who killed my parents wasn't Director Yi. It can't be him either. Suddenly, Yi Ling's words to her appeared in her mind. Empress Rong? Let's see how long you can stay calm this time, what? Surprise appeared in Qin Yan's eyes. Since you already knew that the young general wasn't killed by the people from the imperial family, why did you still find trouble with Director Yi? Because only by seeing the emperor will I have the chance to understand who killed my parents. Yun Luofeng smiled. And the move I'm using right now is called luring the snake out of its hole. Right now, we only need to wait here and we will soon know the answer. Qin Yan blinked her eyes, her clear eyes staring at Yun Luofeng without blinking. She didn't know why, but the current young miss gave her a calm and steady feeling. Using a phrase to describe it, it was that she held the universe in her hands and had a clear mind. It was as if nothing in this world could stop her. Qin Yan, bring Wu Zhong here. Yun Luofeng's smile carried a hint of danger. I've said it before, I won't accept any betrayal. I won't let off anyone who betrays me. Yes, Mississippi. Qin Yan accepted the order and retreated. Before long, Wu Zhong walked into the room under the escort of Qin Yan and Yi Ling. His expression was extremely unsightly, and his brows sank slightly. Obviously, he was thinking of a countermeasure. Wu Zhong, do you know your crime? Yun Luofeng crossed her legs and raised her brows in an unruly manner. Her black eyes turned to Wu Zhong as she asked. I'm not guilty. Wu Zhong raised his head and looked straight at Yun Luofeng. I was set up by Empress Rong in this matter. At the end of the day, I'm also a victim. So, I don't admit my crime. Chapter 196. I'll give you one last chance. Are you going to admit your mistake? The girl's tone was domineering, arrogant and unruly. She leaned lazily against the chair as she asked lazily. Wu Zhong's expression changed abruptly. He gritted his teeth and said, I don't know what your relationship with Yi Ling is, but Yi Ling and I founded Windfall Pavilion. What have you done in the past 6 months? You've made no contributions to Windfall Pavilion, so why should I acknowledge you as my master? She's only a 14-year-old girl, what abilities could she have? Yi Ling must have taken a fancy to this lass, and in order to curry favor with her, she established this Windfall Pavilion. Even though he did not have a good impression of Yi Ling, he could not help but admire her for being a genius. As for Yun Luofeng, he had long heard that General Yun Luo had a good-for-nothing granddaughter. As a good-for-nothing, what right did she have for him to serve her? Wu Zhong. Yi Ling's expression turned cold. Apologize to master. Wu Zhong sneered. When I didn't know her identity, I might have thought of her as a disciple from one of those secluded sections. Otherwise, what ability does a 14-year-old girl have to make you swear loyalty to her? But now, after finding out that she's Yun Luo's granddaughter, I no longer have such naive thoughts. Yi Ling, if you want to please this girl, then do it yourself. Don't drag the entire Windfall Pavilion down with you. What right does a good-for-nothing have to become my master? He did not seem to feel the chill from Yi Ling's body as he glared at her coldly. If you don't want to be the deputy pavilion leader, then get lost. I don't want Windfall Pavilion, which I've spent so much effort on, to be destroyed in your hands. Yi Ling's expression grew colder and colder as the chill from his body thickened. Just as he was about to make a move, a slender arm reached out from the side and stopped him. You're saying that I don't have the right to manage Windfall Pavilion? Yun Luofeng raised his brows and asked with a smile. That's right. Wu Zhong raised his head arrogantly. You and Yi Ling don't have the right. The smile on Yun Luofeng's face deepened. So you're saying that only you have the right. If none of you have the ability to manage Windfall Pavilion, I can only do it on your behalf. Wu Zhong looked at Yun Luofeng disdainfully. I won't allow a good-for-nothing to destroy the foundation I've painstakingly built. Yi Ling looked at Wu Zhong as if he was an idiot. If Yun Luofeng was still trash, then what were they? Furthermore, he actually had the cheek to claim that he was the only one who could manage the Windfall Pavilion? Yi Ling, I once said that my people do not need to be too talented. They only need to be loyal. But now you have disappointed me. Yun Luofeng shook his head. This is the person you've raised in the past half a year? Hearing this, Yi Ling hurriedly knelt on the ground. Master, this is subordinate's fault, please forgive me, master. Remember, don't make the same mistake next time. Yun Luofeng glanced at Yi Ling, then retracted his gaze. His evil black eyes turned to Wu Zhong, curled the corners of his lips and slowly rose. You just said that only you have the right to control the Windfall Pavilion? I didn't know that you were so ambitious. Wu Zhong frowned slightly. He looked at Yun Luofeng, who was walking towards him, and a sense of unease rose in his heart. If it was really as he thought, Yi Ling had taken a liking to this girl and had done so many things to please her. But there was no need for him to kneel before her. Could Yi Ling do such a humiliating thing? Chapter 197. What do you want? Wu Zhong snapped out of his thoughts and realized that Yun Luofeng had already walked in front of him. Instantly, he felt a gust of cold wind blow against his face, causing his entire body to shiver. Even he did not understand why this 14-year-old girl could make him feel so oppressed. He had not felt this way even when he was facing a cultivator who was stronger than him in the past. Don't you want to be in charge of Luofeng Pavilion? Yun Luofeng raised her brows and said condescendingly, Since that's the case, I can satisfy your ambition. As long as you can defeat me, the position of Pavilion Master of Luofeng Pavilion will be yours. Wu Zhong could not believe such a good thing and stared at Yun Luofeng with wide eyes. Was she sure that if he defeated her, she would abdicate her position? Are you telling the truth? Wu Zhong's eyes sparkled with excitement. He had never thought that he would obtain the position of Luofeng Pavilion so easily. That's right. Yun Luofeng crossed her arms and glanced sideways at him. She curled the corners of her lips. In this world, the weak are prey to the strong. If I'm really no match for you, it's natural for you to become the Pavilion Master of Luofeng Pavilion, but… She paused, an evil glint flashing across her black eyes. Once you attack me, you'll be branded as a traitor. Are you sure you want to do this? Wu Zhong ignored the initial uneasiness in his heart. He licked the corners of his lips and laughed sinisterly. The position of Pavilion Master has always been for the capable. I have the ability, so naturally, I'm not willing to miss this opportunity. Furthermore, you're just a useless thing. Before he could finish his sentence, there was a loud bang. A slender, jade-like hand containing an extremely powerful force suddenly landed on Wu Zhong's chest. Before his brain could react, his body slammed against the snow-white wall. The dust on the wall fell and covered Wu Zhong's body. He clutched his chest and stood up. There was a raging fire in his chest. Yun Luofeng, you boom! A leg swept over from the side and ruthlessly kicked him in the face. His body was suddenly swept away and directly smashed a hole in the wall. Get up. She raised her eyebrows slightly, and there was an evil light in her dark eyes. She said arrogantly, Continue. Wu Zhong spat out a mouthful of blood amidst the rubble of the collapsed wall. His left cheek was bruised and his eyes were filled with anger and disbelief. You're not trash? Who was the one who said that the granddaughter of the Long Yuan country's general was a piece of trash? Have you ever seen a piece of trash injure a high spiritualist like him? If the person who was spreading the rumor that Yun Luofeng was trash appeared, he guaranteed that he wouldn't beat him to death. Everyone says that I'm trash, but they've forgotten that no one in this world is born trash. Yun Luofeng's eyes were arrogant as he glanced unruly at Wu Zhong. Wu Zhong, if you want to be the Pavilion Master of Fallen Wind Pavilion so much, it's not that I won't give you a chance. As long as you can touch the corner of my clothes, I'll still give this position to you. Arrogant. Wu Zhong snorted coldly. So what if this little girl wasn't a good-for-nothing? I'm an advanced spiritualist, after all, so how can I not even touch the corner of her clothes? Thinking of this, Wu Zhong looked up at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 198. Under the gentle breeze, the young girl's robes were as white as snow. Her beauty was peerless. There seemed to be an arrogance in her eyes, as if she did not place any importance on the world. An evil smile hung on her peerlessly beautiful face, and her dark eyes were filled with arrogance. She was like an unrestrained wild horse that no one could tame. Perhaps the young girl's gaze had provoked Wu Zhong, causing him to explode with a powerful force. His entire being was like a sharp sword as he shot towards Yun Luofeng, who was standing not too far away. The young girl did not move. Her hands were behind her back and the corners of her lips were curled into a lazy yet demonic smile. Her fine black hair was like a waterfall as it swayed gently in the gentle breeze. Her attitude clearly showed that she did not place any importance on Wu Zhong. The light smile on her face completely infuriated Wu Zhong, causing his movements to become even more ferocious. He wanted to kill her in one strike. "Didn't you say that I can't even touch the corner of your robes? Now I'll show you my true power." Wu Zhong smiled sinisterly. He watched as his hand moved towards Yun Luofeng like a hook. The smile on his face became even more sinister and a malicious light flashed in his eyes. But just as Wu Zhong thought that he could grab Yun Luofeng's heart with one strike, he saw the young girl's body move to the side like a gentle breeze, easily evading his attack. Then, without waiting for Wu Zhong to recover from his shock, a leg once again stretched out in front of him and kicked him in the stomach. With a bang, his body once again fell to the ground in an extremely embarrassing position, almost causing his buttocks to split open. "Do you still want to be the master of the Zephyr Pavilion?" Yun Luofeng slowly stepped forward and placed her foot on his chest. She looked down at him condescendingly. "If you haven't given up, I can give you another chance. Unfortunately, you don't have the ability to touch the corner of my robe." The young girl's voice was arrogant and domineering. Her pitch-black eyes were filled with arrogance and unruliness. What state is your power at?" Wu Zhong bit his lip and asked with a pale face. At this moment, he had truly lost all hope. Who would have thought that a 14-year-old girl would have such power? "It's all Empress Rong's fault. If it had not been for her, I would not have offended Yun Luofeng and would not have fallen into her hands. You don't deserve to know my power." Yun Luofeng lifted the corners of her lips. She looked down at the middle-aged man under her foot and said evilly, "Wu Zhong, I am a person who cannot tolerate betrayal. You clearly know that Yi Ling and the royal family have enmity, but you still colluded with them. Just this point alone is enough for me to not let you live." Wu Zhong's body trembled and he closed his eyes in despair. That's right, even though he did not know that Yi Ling was the third prince of Flowing Gold Country, he could sense the young man's hatred towards the royal family. But in the end, he still bought Yi Ling and established a relationship with the imperial family. Actually, Wu Zhong hadn't taken Yi Ling seriously since the beginning. He felt that the Windfall Pavilion was only able to obtain its current strength because of him. Since it was like that, there was no need for him to give up the peerless beauty that he'd obtained for Yi Ling. But he had never thought that this peerless beauty was a poison that he could not touch. Chapter 199. Then what do you want? Wu Zhong gritted his teeth. His mind was racing as he tried to think of a countermeasure. Yun Luofeng chuckled and increased the strength of his foot on Wu Zhong's chest. He said coldly, "Of course I want you to pay the price for your betrayal." Bang! The young girl's foot stomped down fiercely. Wu Zhong's chest caved in. Then, a shrill cry echoed throughout the entire Zephyr Pavilion, like the howl of a wild beast. "Yi Ling, he's already a cripple. Throw him out of the Zephyr Pavilion and let him perish on his own." Her foot not only broke Wu Zhong's ribs, it also destroyed his dantian, turning him into a true cripple. Wu Zhong curled up into a ball, his whole body trembling. He looked at Yun Luofeng with hatred, but even more than that, there was a hidden fear in his heart. Yes, he was afraid of Yun Luofeng. Not only was this young girl powerful, she was also decisive. She was like a nightmare that would haunt him for the rest of his life until he died. "Yes, master." Yi Ling cupped his fists and replied respectfully. Then, his expression returned to its usual coldness as he walked towards Wu Zhong, who was lying on the ground. Wu Zhong, consider yourself unlucky. You fell into my master's hands and even dared to violate her. Master has already shown mercy by not putting you to death by 1,000 cut. Now you can go out and perish on your own. At this moment Yi Ling felt very fortunate. Fortunate that half a year ago, Yun Luofeng was in need of manpower. Otherwise, just based on the fact that he had helped the Emperor of Long Yuan country to plot against her, he would have died 1,000,000 times over. Qinyan, I'm tired. Let's go back and rest. Yun Luofeng yawned lazily and slowly withdrew his foot from Wu Zhong's body. She believed that Yi Ling would handle the rest of the matter well. The Imperial Palace. In a luxurious and dignified bedroom, Empress Rong dismissed all the palace maids and sent her trusted aides to wait outside. After she had done all this, a cold laugh came from behind the door, causing her to tremble in fear. That Yun Luofeng is really interesting. Empress Rong's expression changed. She turned to look at the handsome man who had appeared behind her and was sipping tea. Young Master Bai, I beg you, please help me. Empress Rong bit her lip, her eyes pleading. Bai Ling, that SL*T's daughter, has actually come looking for me. Please, you have to help me. She's now receiving help from Zephyr Pavilion. If she finds out that I'm the one who killed Bai Ling, she definitely won't let the matter rest. Bai Su glanced at her evilly and said in a lukewarm tone, Do you expect others to clean up after you caused this mess yourself? Where did you find the courage to kill Whitey? Why don't you continue to take it out? Empress Rong's heart sank. If Bai Su didn't help her, then she really wouldn't be able to escape this time. Who would have imagined that that stinking kid, Yi Ling, would actually be the vice pavilion master of the Windfall Pavilion? He really didn't know if the Windfall Pavilion's pavilion master was blind. How could he let an idiot like Yi Ling become the vice pavilion master? If anyone was to be the vice pavilion master, it should be her son. Young Master Bai, don't forget that your Bai family also participated in that incident. Otherwise, I wouldn't have been able to kill Bai Ling. Empress Rong hardened her heart. No matter what, she must drag the Bai family down with her. Bai Su's eyes darkened. Suddenly, he smiled. That smile was charming and charming, causing one's heart to flutter. Chapter 200. Are you threatening me? The corners of his lips curled up dangerously as he leaned lazily against the back of his chair. He raised his brows evilly and said, Rong Xian, you seem to have forgotten something. You may be afraid of Zephyr Pavilion, but the Bai family is not afraid of anything. Also, don't forget that the royal family is only a dog under the Bai family. What right do you have to threaten me? Empress Rong's heart skipped a beat. How could she have forgotten that the Windfall Pavilion was a force no one dared to provoke? But against a colossus like the Bai family, no matter how strong the Windfall Pavilion was, it couldn't withstand a single blow. Young Master Bai, she was a little nervous and wanted to explain but was interrupted by the man's devilish voice. That girl Bai Ling also has the surname Bai. Unfortunately, she's not a member of the Bai family. I, Bai Su, have always been a flatterer. If I can't have someone, then no one else can either. That's why I helped you destroy Bai Ling. The man looked to be in his 20s at most, but he kept calling Bai Ling a girl. It sounded strange. But Bai Su paused and turned his devilish eyes to Empress Rong. You and Bai Ling really can't be compared. It's only natural that Chairman Yi likes her. But you, because of your jealousy, begged the Bai family to help you destroy her. Empress Rong's face paled. Her jealousy towards Bai Ling rose again. Everyone thought that she couldn't be compared to Bai Ling, but what else could Bai Ling do besides having a foxy face? Why did everyone praise her like that? She just couldn't stand that vixen. But that vixen was so persistent. She was already dead, yet she still allowed her daughter to appear here. Indeed, both mother and daughter were up to no good. No one was allowed to challenge her current position? Rong Xian, back then, the Bai family made Chairman Yi the Empress because you weren't smart enough. A smart woman can only end up like Empress Yi. Bai Su smiled wickedly. But I didn't expect you to be this stupid. Threatening him? No one had ever dared to threaten him in his life. As if Bai Su's mention of Empress Yi had reminded Rong Xian of the past, her face paled. She bit her pale lips and her eyes were filled with shame. To a force like the Bai family, the imperial family was nothing but a puppet. As a puppet, there was no need for intelligence. A clever puppet would only increase its master's disgust. That was why a smart woman like Empress Yi was stripped of her position as Empress by Chairman Yi. She lived in the cold palace and died of depression. But, young Master Bai, Empress Rong's eyes darted back and forth, that boy Yiling is very clever. The civil and military officials do not allow His Imperial Majesty to make Luo the crown prince and insist on supporting Yiling. This matter does not seem to be something that you should care about. Bai Su's eyes gradually turned cold as she replied lazily, Remember, don't interfere in matters that you shouldn't. The Bai family does not need you to order us around. The man's voice was laced with murderous intent. Empress Rong was so frightened that her legs turned to jelly and she broke out in a cold sweat. She bit her lips and didn't make a sound. She was afraid that if she said another word, this terrifying man in front of her would immediately take her life. How about this? Let Chairman Yi settle the grudge between you and the Yun family of Long Yuan first. If he really can't resolve it, I'll send someone to help you. Bai Su slowly stood up from his chair and glanced at Empress Rong with his devilish eyes. But I have a condition. You have to bring that girl Yun Luofeng to see me. I'm very interested in that girl. Chapter 201. That girl was much more interesting than her mother. Bai Su gently stroked her chin with her slender fingers as a bewitching smile appeared on her face. Her eyes narrowed slightly as a glint of interest flashed across them. Empress Rong suppressed her anger and said respectfully, Young Master Bai, don't worry. I will bring Yun Luofeng to you. Bai Su could feel her anger and sneered, I don't care how much you hate that girl. She's still useful to me. So, I don't want you to act on impulse. Otherwise, you know what I can do. Empress Rong's body trembled, and she quickly suppressed her emotions. She lowered her eyes, I don't dare. I hope you don't dare. Bai Su's lips curved. Empress Rong, remember what I said. If I find out that you have any intentions of betrayal, I will destroy the entire flowing gold kingdom. Windfall Pavilion. On a soft couch, a young girl was resting with her eyes half closed. Suddenly, a commotion came from outside the door. Perhaps the noise had disturbed her rest. She looked displeased. She raised an eyebrow and asked, What's going on? Why is it so noisy outside? Pavilion Master, Fang Yu heard Yun Luofeng's question and quickly answered, Your subordinate will go see who's causing trouble outside. Fang Yu was the newly promoted steward. Even though he was not as strong as Wu Zhong, he was smart and sensible. Yun Luofeng liked him a lot. No need. Yun Luofeng sat up from the couch and gently curled the corner of his lips. I'll go see for myself. Windfall Pavilion was not located in the bustling area of the imperial city, but there were still many people around. At this moment, the pedestrians on the street were standing far away to one side, pointing at the royal guards who had surrounded the Windfall Pavilion and discussing in low voices. Windfall Pavilion's power was only known to those in power. The common people at the bottom of the hierarchy had no idea of their power. In the eyes of these people, the royal family was the one in charge of the world. Therefore, they all guessed that Windfall Pavilion had committed a crime that caused the emperor to come personally to arrest them. In reality, a cowardly person like Director Yi was not willing to come to such a place. Unfortunately, young Master Bai had given the order first. No matter how timid he was, he had no choice but to personally capture him. Furthermore, he still had a sliver of confidence in his heart. He believed that his son would never lay a hand on him, his father. As he was thinking, Director Yi caught a glimpse of Yi Ling walking out of the Windfall Pavilion. He was overjoyed and coughed dryly. His expression was as stern as ever. Linger, today, Father came here in order to capture the enemy nation's spy, Yun Luofeng. This Yun Luofeng was audacious to the extreme. You actually want to kill all the people of the Flowing Gold Country, including the innocent citizens. So, for the sake of the common people, I must take this woman down today. If you wish to incriminate someone, you can always find a pretext. As the Emperor of the Flowing Gold Country, his words were absolute. The people of the world would never doubt him. As expected, when they heard Director Ye's words, the surrounding crowd was enraged. It was as if Yun Luofeng was a villain who killed without batting an eyelid. Who is this Yun Luofeng? They wanted to destroy the Flowing Gold Nation? He even planned to slaughter everyone in the Flowing Gold Nation? Is she afraid that countless wronged souls will come to settle the score with her at night? Chapter 202. It's a good thing that your Imperial Majesty discovered her plot. Otherwise, our entire nation's citizens would have suffered. This demon should be executed by 1,000 cuts. An example to others. Kill her, kill this demon. Anyone who invades the Flowing Gold Kingdom must die. Director Yi laughed icily in his heart as he listened to the crowd's cries. His cold eyes swept towards the indifferent Yi Ling as he spoke icily. Did you hear that? So many people wanted her dead, which proved that she had indeed committed a heinous crime. Yi Ling, seeing that you're our son, we won't argue with you. Get out of the way. Yi Ling held back the enraged Qin Yan and glanced at Director Yi with disdain. What do you mean by that many people want her dead? That proves that she has committed a heinous crime? Isn't the reason why these people are so angry because of your framing? Imperial Father, I've never seen anyone as shameless as you. Chairman Ye's expression darkened. Yi Ling, is this how you talk to your father? However, you've committed treason and heresy. Imperial Father cannot reject you as his son. How about this, if you like this little girl next to you, Imperial Father will allow her to become your concubine. As for your princess consort, Imperial Father has decided for you. She will be Empress Rong's niece, Rongyu. Yi Ling's body emitted a cold aura and her eyes were icy. You don't have to worry about this. I will only marry Qin Yan in this lifetime. As for Rongyu, you can enjoy her for yourself. I won't fight with you over her. Impudence! Director Yi was enraged and glared fiercely at Yi Ling. You're a prince of the imperial family and the deputy leader of Windfall Pavilion. This woman is only Yun Luofeng's maidservant. You're willing to stoop so low as to marry a maidservant. You're deliberately embarrassing the imperial family. We will never allow this to happen. Also, don't think that we don't know that you've single-handedly built Windfall Pavilion. Rather than letting it fall into the hands of an outsider, why don't we take control of it? Director Ye's greedy expression was on full display as he spoke. He had been in deep thought for a long time over the past few days and had come to understand one thing. How could a father and son have an overnight grudge? No matter how unreasonable he was, Yi Ling had no choice but to listen to him with the word filial. Moreover, he had already investigated thoroughly over the past few days. His son had single-handedly built the Windfall Pavilion. As for the so-called pavilion master, he had never shown his face, and it was uncertain whether he existed or not. Therefore, it was not wrong for him to accept the Windfall Pavilion on his son's behalf. Who asked him to give birth to him? Suddenly, a chuckle rang out from within the pavilion. The chuckle seemed to be filled with ridicule, causing Chairman Ye's expression to change drastically. I didn't expect my Zephyr Pavilion to be so heavily targeted. Wu Zhong left, and now another one has come. You and Empress Rong are truly a married couple. You're exactly the same when it comes to seizing things. Wasn't that right? When Empress Rong went to the second prince's residence, she had also used this tone to order Yi Ling to hand over the residence. Now, it was the same for Director Yi. One was more shameless than the other. Yun Luofeng. Chairman Ye's expression sank when he saw the white-robed young woman step out of the door. He then ordered coldly, "Men, take this woman away." The Imperial Guards joined their fists in obeisance and quickly walked towards Yun Luofeng. The young woman leaned lazily against the doorsill as she watched the approaching Imperial Guards. She could not help but curl the corners of her lips, and an arrogant and unruly smile appeared on her lips. "You want to take me away with just these people? Don't you think that you're overestimating your Imperial Guards? I'm afraid that the combined power of these people can't even compare to my maidservant." Chapter 203. Director Yi was enraged and a vicious light flashed in his eyes. "Yun Luofeng, you're still young but your tone is very arrogant. You're actually claiming that a little servant girl can fight against the Imperial family's Imperial Guards? Now I'd like to see just how powerful this little servant girl is." Generally speaking, a little servant girl like Qing Yan would not have much power. Otherwise, she would not have been destined to serve others. This statement was not wrong. If Qing Yan had not met a master like Yun Luofeng, she would have spent her entire life at the lowest rung and would never have been able to climb to her current position. However, Qing Yan was also fortunate to have a master like Yun Luofeng who was willing to put in so much effort to nurture her. This meant that she was destined to have an extraordinary life. Yaling looked at the arrogant Director Yi and curled the corners of her lips into a disdainful angle. Her eyes were filled with disdain, as if she was laughing at Director Ye's words. "My lady, don't worry. Leave this to me." Qing Yan raised her delicate and pretty face and smiled at the Imperial Guards who were surrounding them. Then, she quickly unsheathed the long sword in her hand and with a flash, she charged into the royal guards. Blood dyed the entire courtyard of Luofeng Pavilion red, and it was as gorgeous as a blooming rose. Qing Yan's petite figure shuttled through a group of mighty men. As the blade in her hand rose and fell, a fountain of bright red blood sprayed out and splashed onto the little servant girl's jade-like face. At this moment, Qing Yan was no longer that delicate and adorable little girl. Her clean and efficient movements were just like a trained killer, cruel and merciless. Chairman Ye's complacent face froze in the wake of the young maidservant's outburst. His tightly clenched fists trembled slightly. His fierce gaze was like a sharp longsword as it shot straight at Qing Yan. "Impossible! This is absolutely impossible!" He pinched his palm fiercely and forced himself to calm down. However, no matter how hard he tried to control himself, his heart was still trembling incessantly. Qing Yan was only a little servant girl who served others. How could she possibly defeat the well-trained Imperial Guards? Furthermore, she had fought them all alone without showing any signs of weakness? "All of you, stop!" Chairman Yi could no longer hold it in when he saw the countless deaths of the royal guards. He let out a furious roar. His fragile heart seemed to be unable to withstand such a blow and almost collapsed. One by one, the Imperial Guards stopped moving and planned to retreat. However, Qing Yan didn't give them the chance to leave. It was as if she hadn't heard Director Ye's words. Her petite body was accompanied by a flash of sword light. In an instant, several Imperial Guards fell to the ground. "I told you to stop, didn't you hear me?" Chairman Yi couldn't suppress the rage in his heart. When he saw that Qing Yan didn't stop, he turned his fierce gaze towards Yun Luofeng. "Yun Luofeng, tell your people to stop." Yun Luofeng leaned against the door railing. He lazily raised his eyes and smiled evilly. "You should have known the consequences when you killed your way into the Windfall Pavilion. Now, if you want to leave this place, there is only one way, and that is to walk out sideways." In other words, she would not let them go unless they were dead and carried out of here. "Little girl, when it's possible to let people go, one should forgive them. Aren't you going too far by doing this?" Suddenly, an elderly voice rang out. It was accompanied by an amiable laughter that rang in everyone's ears. Chapter 204. Yun Luofeng raised her brows frivolously. She looked at the white-robed elder, who had appeared out of thin air, and her lips curled into a demonic smile. Be lenient wherever possible? If I forgive him, who would forgive me? The white-robed elder was not angered by Yun Luofeng's words. His compassionate features carried a sense of sorrow, and his tone of voice was as kind as ever. Little girl, you're in the wrong here. No matter how many mistakes the imperial family has made, they still control the entire country. If you kill the emperor now, the people of the world will be plunged into misery and suffering. There will be countless deaths and injuries. I can't bear to see the people of the world suffer, so I'm trying to persuade you. If you insist on acting rashly, you will certainly suffer the pain of karmic fire and will never be reincarnated for the rest of your life. What you're saying is that the imperial family can be forgiven for their mistakes, but if I'm wrong, I should die. Yun Luofeng raised her brow and smiled icily at the white-robed elder. Little girl, your life alone cannot be compared to the lives of the people of the world. The white-robed elder shook his head and laughed bitterly. If you die, I will ask Chairman Yi to burn countless gold, silver, and treasures for you so that you won't have to worry about food or clothing in the underworld. However, Chairman Yi is different. No matter who is in the right or wrong, he cannot die. Yun Luofeng curled the corners of her lips and a haughty and unruly smile appeared on her peerlessly beautiful face. My life is more precious than anyone else's. Even if all the lives of the people of the world were added together, it would not be comparable to my life. 10 years ago, the members of the imperial family had hurt my mother. By Ling 10 years later, they want to take my life. I swear I won't rest until I kill him. Little girl, the evil in your heart is too heavy. If this goes on, not only will the people of the world be plunged into misery and suffering, you will also fall into the path of demons. The white-robed elder stared at Yun Luofeng with pity and spoke kindly. How about this? Come with me and acknowledge me as your master. I will dispel the evil in your heart. His tone may have been kind, but there was a faint sense of arrogance on his elderly face, as if it was Yun Luofeng's good fortune to have acknowledged him as her master. Yun Luofeng laughed icily. Not everyone in this world has the right to be my master. You're even more unworthy. If it was anyone else, Yun Luofeng would definitely be enraged after saying such arrogant words. However, this white-robed old man had a smile on his face from beginning to end, and his emotions did not fluctuate at all because of the young girl's words. Little girl, you've already developed a mental barrier, causing you to make a mistake in your decision. I know that you must be struggling in pain, hoping that I can pull you out of this quagmire, but the mental barrier in your heart is causing you to be unable to ask for help. Don't worry, since you've met me by CI, I won't leave you alone. Don't worry. Since you've run into me, I won't leave you alone. His gaze was filled with contempt, as if he was looking at an idiot. His master had rejected his request to take him in as a disciple, so he thought that his master had a mental barrier in her heart and that was why she had rejected him? Gu Luofeng, Yun thought. Little girl, I'm the only one who can help you in this world. Bai Si smiled kindly. As long as you follow me, I'll make sure that you don't kill anymore. When will there be an end to revenge? I believe that no matter what kind of hatred it is, as long as you are willing to repay evil with kindness, your enemy will definitely be grateful to you. Isn't this faster than taking revenge? Yun Luofeng nodded in agreement. That's right, you're right. So, if I kill your parents and children, and have someone rape your wife, and you repay me with kindness, I will definitely be grateful to you. Revenge breeds revenge, when will it ever end? Am I right? Chapter 205. Bai Si's elderly face finally froze. His chest rose and fell unsteadily. He took a deep breath with all his might to suppress the anger that was about to erupt. It looks like your demonic barrier is too deep for you to say such cruel things. Do you think that you can take lives as you please? Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips. Then my parents should die, should I die as well? Why didn't you step forward to stop the royal family from plotting against my parents all those years ago? Now, I only want to avenge my parents, yet you keep saying that you should repay evil with good? Is this your so-called mercy? Bai Si's voice immediately disappeared. His elderly features changed slightly and an almost undetectable cold light flashed across his eyes. Very soon, his gaze returned to its amiable state. He looked kindly at Yun Luofeng and said, "These two matters are different. Your parents were young generals. Dying on the battlefield is their final destination. Now it's different. Your actions have shown contempt for life. How can I sit back and watch this happen? Yun Luofeng, leave this place with me now. I will save you." Bai Si's face lifted into a gentle smile, as if he was thinking of himself as the savior of the world. Yun Luofeng narrowed his eyes. "What if I say no? Then I will have no choice but to kill you." Bai Si shook his head. His eyes were filled with compassion. "Of course, I don't want that to happen." Yun Luofeng laughed gently. His demonic laughter was filled with mockery as it slowly rang out in front of the now silent Zephyr Pavilion. "When I want to kill someone, you claim that I have stepped onto the path of the devil and is extremely cruel. When you want to kill someone, you act as if it's only natural. Little girl, I have no other choice. If I kill you, I can save even more people. Therefore, when it comes down to it, I am also saving the world. Otherwise, if you had truly stepped onto the path of the devil, the world would certainly be plunged into misery and suffering." Bai Si looked at Yun Luofeng and his eyes were filled with pity. "Don't worry, after I kill you, I will become vegetarian and pray to Buddha for the rest of my life to atone for my sins." "You mean that you can make up for my life by becoming vegetarian and praying to Buddha?" Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips. "I really don't know whether to call you fake mercy or hypocrisy." From the moment he saw the old man, Yun Luofeng had already seen through his true intentions. The benevolence he spoke of was from his own standpoint. For example, killing was the right thing to do. When others kill someone, they don't ask for the reason and just judge them to be wrong. This kind of person was not truly compassionate. He was just a hypocrite who talked about mercy all the time. "You're really stubborn." Bai Si shook his head and sighed helplessly. "Seeing that you're still young, I'll give you a chance and not kill you. However, this old man will cripple your strength so that you won't be able to kill anyone in the future." Chairman Yi was shocked. He quickly turned to look at Bai Si and said anxiously, "Lady Bai Si, young Master Bai Su, before coming here, Bai Su had asked Empress Rong to warn Chairman Yi that Yun Luofeng must be brought to the Bai family to see him. If Bai Si turned Yun Luofeng into a cripple, she might not be able to explain herself to young Master Bai Su." Bai Si did not seem to hear Chairman Ye's words. The aura around his body was completely revealed. Under this powerful pressure, Chairman Ye's words seemed to be stuck in his throat, and he was unable to speak. Feeling Bai Si's fierce aura, Yun Luofeng lowered his eyes and used soul telepathy to ask, "Little Mo, what are the chances of defeating him?" Chapter 206. After a moment of silence, a tender voice rang out from within his soul. "Master, are you going to use that method to raise the strength of your soul again? However, even if you raise the strength of your soul, you only have a 50% chance of defeating him." 50%, huh? Yun Luofeng rubbed his chin as his eyes filled with determination. "That's enough. Little Mo, help me raise the strength of my soul." As the young girl spoke, she no longer hid her aura. With a loud bang, it exploded like a monstrous ocean, surging violently. Beginner Earth Spirit? When she sensed the young girl's fierce aura, a trace of seriousness appeared in Bai Si's eyes as a sense of pity appeared on her elderly face. A genius who has already become an Earth Spirit at such a young age. If I could get rid of your evil aura, your future would definitely be smooth sailing. Bai Si laughed bitterly as she looked at Yun Luofeng with pity. Unfortunately, your evil aura is too strong. In order to prevent you from committing a monstrous slaughter, I can only cripple your powers. Little girl, don't hate me. I've done all of this for your own good. In other words, he had killed Yun Luofeng for Yun Luofeng's own good. As for her, not only did she not have the right to hate him, she should be thanking him. Otherwise, there would come a day when Yun Luofeng would become an existence despised by all, and receive everyone's scolding and humiliation. And he had stopped such a thing from happening. Was this not for Yun Luofeng's own good? Now I finally understand that shamelessness is also a kind of realm. Yun Luofeng raised the corners of his lips evilly as his pitch-black eyes landed on Bai Si. Unfortunately, this realm is not something that just anyone can reach. Today, I've really broadened my horizons. Bai Si's brows furrowed slightly. This girl was really stubborn. She did not listen to my earnest and well-meaning advice, so I can only cripple her powers. Little girl, you have the power of an earth spirit at such a young age. You do indeed have the right to be arrogant. However, you've forgotten that a genius will always be a genius. A genius who has yet to fully mature. Anyone can make you fall. Yun Luofeng's lips curled up. Wanting to cripple my strength. I'm afraid it won't be that easy. Under the light breeze, the young girl's eyes were wild and unruly. The corners of her lips were raised in an unruly arc. Her black eyes stared straight at Bai Si, and there was no fear on her face. Ah! Bai Si laughed out loud. If that's the case, then I'll show you my strength. They were both earth spirits, but this girl was only a low-level earth spirit, while he was already a high-level earth spirit. The difference of 2 levels was a ravine that she couldn't cross. She was destined to be unable to surpass it. Boom! A strong gust of wind from her palm followed Bai Si's sudden advance. The gust of wind was like a knife, causing pain to the faces of those around her. It was like a huge fist was smashing towards Yun Luofeng's chest. Bang! Yun Luofeng raised her hand and met Bai Si's fist. She took 2 steps back and blood flowed from the corner of her mouth. An evil light shone in her pitch-black eyes. If you want me to die, I'll definitely drag you down with me. Yun Luofeng wiped the blood from the corner of her mouth. She turned around and pulled out her long sword from Yiling's hand. Her white robes fluttered in the light breeze. She was like a snowflake blooming in the sky, proud and cold. She was so beautiful that no one could look away. Miss! Qin Yan's eyes were filled with anxiety. Her heart was beating rapidly and her bright black eyes were filled with worry. She bit her lip and looked at Yun Luofeng. Chapter 207. Qin Yan, stand down with Yiling. Without my order, no one is allowed to come forward. The young girl held her long sword and an insolent light flashed across her pitch-black eyes. Bai Si, I, Yun Luofeng, have always acted with a clear conscience. I have never wronged anyone. Similarly, I am not a pushover that anyone can bully. If you want to kill me, you must be prepared to be bitten by me. Bai Si's eyes narrowed slightly and a murderous aura was released from her body without reservation. Her figure was like an unsheathed longsword, cutting through the air and creating a shower of sparks. Little girl, I had only wanted to cripple your powers so that you would never be able to cultivate for the rest of your life. Since you want to die, I will fulfill your wish. Bai Si's speed was so fast that Yun Luofeng had no time to prepare himself. Fortunately, at the crucial moment, she had used the power of her soul to attack Bai Si's mind, causing him to be momentarily dazed. However, Bai Si was not Jing Lin after all and their powers were worlds apart. As such, Yun Luofeng's soul attack only caused him to be dazed for a second before he quickly recovered. His attacks became even fiercer and a murderous glint appeared in his eyes. Fortunately, Yun Luofeng's soul attack had bought her some time. Even if it was only for a second, it was enough for her to use the longsword in her hand to block the other's irresistible attack. Bang! The fist landed fiercely on the longsword. The crowd heard a loud crack and the sword in Yun Luofeng's hand broke into 2. It slowly fell to the ground with a crisp sound. The young girl took 2 steps back. Her hand gently clutched her chest, and her dark eyes were filled with seriousness. Little girl, let me ask you, do you still want revenge? Bai Si's eyes were filled with sorrow. Even though Empress Rong had killed your birth parents that year, it has been so many years since that incident. Why are you still so persistent? Empress Rong? As expected, it was Empress Rong. Having finally obtained the answer he wanted, Yun Luofeng curled the corners of his lips and smiled evilly. Wait until I've killed your parents and child. You can say such things again. Perhaps I might even believe you then. Looks like you really can't be saved. Bai Si shook her head and said faintly, if that's the case, I'll kill you now to prevent you from suffering in the future. After saying this, Bai Si's figure had already appeared in front of Yun Luofeng. She was like a ghostly shadow, so fast that her movements were erratic. Girl, do you have any last words? Yun Luofeng laughed softly. She threw the sword hilt in her hand onto the ground. The corners of her lips curled up slightly, and the murderous intent in her evil eyes intensified. Yi Ling silently walked in front of Yun Luofeng and stood in front of her. His handsome face was filled with the determination to face death with equanimity. Yi Ling, move aside. Chairman Ye's expression changed and he shouted sternly, this has nothing to do with you. Get lost. Yi Ling looked at Director Yi expressionlessly and said coldly, if you want to kill her, you'll have to do it over my dead body. Yi Ling. Director Yi was enraged and his eyes were filled with a fiery rage. He really could not understand what was so good about Yun Luofeng that his son would protect her so much. Even if he had taken a liking to Yun Luofeng's maidservant, there was no need for him to throw his life away for Yun Luofeng's sake. Yi Ling, Yun Luofeng looked at the handsome youth in front of her and said, move aside. I, Yun Luofeng, will not be defeated so easily.